hang on. All right. I'm actually ready to go.
Can I ask why?
Ask mommy what?
If I...
Hang on. No,
What
no.
is that?
All right, hang on.
Can I take
here's
Wally?
what...
Can I take Wally?
Stay with me. Okay. All right, let me get this in focus. Hang on.
Can I get up?
What are we getting up on?
You seem like... I would ask if I want
Mommy's
some
making
dessert.
dinner downstairs for you. I'm going to show you something.
Snack.
Hang on. Okay, so...
Are you going to show me?
We're going to look over here at this camera. You see this camera? Hold on, I'm going to put the turtle. All right, hold on. You see this turtle? This turtle's going to sit on the camera. Can you see that turtle? All right, this Stitch is going to be over here.
I want to have Stitch.
I'll give you the Stitch when we're all done. Hang on. You see Stitch? So you're going to look at that camera and you're going to say hello. If you don't try, I'm not going to give you Stitch. Okay.
Hello.
All right. Hello. Good evening. How's it going? So this is my new stream timer. Hope you like that. I'll probably start doing that while I'm getting things ready. Sound and video is working. Okay, cool. Thank you for telling me, Malachi. Rivers, Swords and Stones, Derp, and Chen Husun. Hello, how's it going? All right, so I have a few things to cover for tonight. Reopening the Discord channel. We're going to go through some of the comments on the morality TTRPG idea, and then also I have a couple videos on combat. If we have time, we'll get to that as well. Also going to be talking about a few new ideas that have come up in our Discord server. Some ideas. You can hang on. Some ideas about making a podcast and also a coalition. But first, before I start that,
can I have
hang on. I want to show Riker the video of him. Thank you, AJ. I want to show Riker the video of him playing a game.
Playing a game of Stitch.
Hold on. Riker, I'm going to turn the volume up on this, so hopefully this comes up in the channel as well.
Ducky yucky. Also slimy too.
Can you explain it to me again? I don't understand.
Slimy slime.
Hold on. Who is this character right here, Riker? I don't understand who this character is.
I will stand.
Wait. I want you to explain. Before he frees those donkeys from the salt mine,
He's a good.
tell me, who is this character?
He is called a good green goblin.
Is this Green Goblin? Okay, so is Green Goblin going to rescue these donkeys from the salt mine?
Hang on.
Okay, so hold on. Can he help Falcor the dragon to rescue the donkeys from the salt mine? How? Hold on. How can they work together?
Train passenger was on top of here.
I don't understand, Riker. Say it again. What?
Train passengers were on top of here.
Listen. Okay, you're saying it funny, so I don't know what you're saying.
Riker's playing the game with Daddy.
Passengers. Say the last part again. Train passengers, what?
I'm playing the game. Train passengers? What?
Can you say it without talking British? You're trying to talk British, and I'm having a hard time understanding. Okay, train passengers. Oh, you're making him be a character. I'm sorry. Okay, I get it. So here, can you make him say it again and talk British while he does it? Here, he can talk like Falcor.
I'm Falcor. Come on, Green Goblin. We've got to save those kids. They're trapped in cages.
Soon you'll go eat.
I'm going, but
Green Goblin,
I want you to see the game we played. I want you to remember the game we
But
played.
we can't take the cage off because the
We're trying to free those donkeys, but we can't because the coachman will block us.
You get away, I'll stab you.
Right? He tried to stab you, remember?
Get away, Green Goblin. I'm gonna put that cage back over there.
He's hard to beat. He was such a mean coachman. He wouldn't let the Green Goblin come take the donkeys. You remember? You'll go downstairs and eat soon. I understand. Right? And then the dinosaurs came out, and then Daddy dropped one on the ground. Okay? And then remember, you spit acid.
We're gonna stop you.
Because they're gonna stop you, and you went bleh, and you spit acid.
And Falcor says, "Hey, Green Goblin, do you think you could spit some acid on them?" You can't spit acid on us. We're donkeys. Don't even think about spitting acid on us.
Bleh.
Oh, sorry, we're dinosaurs. Bleh, you spit acid on us. Yeah. Now, hey.
Do you remember when you pushed the coachman off the mountain?
Knock that coachman
Push
down
that
the
coachman
ziggurat.
down the mountain. Remember that?
Coachman down the road.
Do you remember that?
Sharp claws.
Remember you you remember you destroyed that coachman? Annihilated. Here he comes. Coach. He's about ready to fall.
Try and push him. Try and push him. Push him off the cliff. Ah!
Did you do that?
The donkeys are clear. Let's try and get them into their mine cart. Quick. Good job, Green Goblin. Here, help me move them into their mine cart. We've got to pick them up and put them inside the car.
Move them over.
Come on, Green Goblin, let's do it. I'll pick this one up and put him inside the car. My name's Alexander. Thank you for saving me. I'm gonna go home to
The
my
island.
mother now.
My name's Alexander.
Green Goblin ever. You're saving
We
us from
can
the
go.
dangers. Thank you, Green Goblin. It was so nice of you to come save us.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
we're gonna get in.
BB-8
Wait, we're missing someone.
R2D2.
There's
You can hang on to him.
5 of us. There we go. All 5 are here. All right, let's send them down.
Here.
Oh
And
no! The
here.
train broke.
I'm gonna
Let's
go
fix it real quick.
forward a little bit so you can see you telling mommy the story.
Let's try it again. Let's try it again.
We went in the kitchen over here.
How
Okay.
did you save Alexander?
How did you save Alexander?
Green Goblin.
Well, hold on.
Can I
You
just-
can go in just a minute. Hang on.
Green Goblin helped Falcor to rescue the zombie, to rescue the
Can I see my
donkeys.
toys?
Soon. Just a moment.
Can I have those toys to play with?
What toys?
Those feet?
Okay. No, I want you to.
Okay, but hold on. But the caterpillar wasn't part of the story, so tell mommy the story.
wanna have that.
Tell mommy the story
Nope.
about the Green Goblin.
Nope. Let go.
Remember what happened
Nope.
with the coachman? What did the Green Goblin
What happened
do
to
to
the
the
coachman?
He fell off the
What did he do to the coachman?
What
He
it-
like it.
That's right. Okay.
They pushed him off the cliff.
Can I
What did
Alright.
the coachman say? The coachman.
So,
I must have those.
hang on. While you are here with me, we had a successful game. If you guys watched the video, whatever that was, like a week ago or something, then you saw it, and I wanted to
something.
hang on. I wanted to say thank you because the idea.
Riker needed B.
The idea to play tabletop RPGs came to me through the help of this community. That's a sharp knife. Leave it alone. And so I want to say, shh, okay, no.
Oh,
You're gonna be calm for a minute. Hang on. We're almost done. Count to 10. Count to 10 in your mind. Okay.
our Father.
No.
Who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive. Do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the glory, the power, forever. Amen.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. You go downstairs.
Yes, but I could have the beats.
What's that?
Oh, no, the beats.
You want to have what beats? Oh no. I'm gonna hang on to these. Okay. I'm gonna hang on to
Can I
these.
have this?
You may not have this. This is covered in paint. Okay, you go downstairs to mommy. She's got food for you. Okay. All right. Let me finish the point I was trying to make, which was, thank you. Thank you for your help and your feedback and your pushing Riker. We don't play on the stairs, dude. We walk down the stairs normally. We do not slide down the stairs on our tummy. That's a bad choice. Don't do it, man. Just, hey, I need you to walk downstairs to go eat dinner. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. All right. Anyways, I just wanted to. I don't have Riker on the stream with me ever. Because it's difficult to keep our focus on things. So, but I did want to point out that this success, as small as it is, it's hope for me. And so thank you for everyone who's been giving me feedback on the stuff. Initially, if you remember when I first started this channel, my thought was to be like a war game channel, because that might be the route I could get Riker to play games. I didn't even think tabletop RPGs, right? That just seemed out of the realm of possibility. But I think you as a community did very well to help me realize the importance of storytelling and how storytelling can help people through various struggles, right? And like Riker has a struggle with paying attention, but once we started bringing stories into it, it helped him to focus. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, Swords, he did have a good time. He had a fun game. And it is Riker with an I, like Commander Riker from Star Trek. Okay, so I have a few few things I'm going to go over that's basically like news for the channel. Apparently I forgot to write one down, so this is going to be 1.1. I have 3 points to make. All right, so the first is we're going to be reopening up the Discord, just like an open link. It's going to be on the YouTube channel. I think there is the potential for us to get people, you know, disagreeing with each other, right? Like that's the problem we had before. But I think we've started to build a good enough community of people who are willing to push back, have discussions, but do it in a kind way, you know, while also holding firm to their thoughts and feelings, right? So my thought about opening up the Discord is a little bit of what the story of the Discord has been for me, and that is like, oftentimes I'm making a video asking a question. It's been because there's been a conversation in the Discord that I've watched for maybe a half a day or a whole day, and people just going back and forth, and by the end of it I go, I wonder what the answer to this is, right? Like the morality thing. People have been discussing that thing in my Discord for like 2 or 3 days, where they're going like, should villains just be pure evil? That's stupid. They should be morally gray. And like, you know, again, it's not really, to me, it doesn't really feel contentious, but it's very helpful for me engaging with it because I'm like, I don't know what the answer to this is. And so it allows me to capture that thing and throw it up onto a video. And so I have a lot of benefit from the Discord community having discussions like that. But if you're interested in joining it, like I'll probably put like another video out to explain my thought. Like if you're interested in joining it, just be prepared to defend your position. You know, like there's kind of an iron sharpens iron mentality to the Discord, and even me, like I've put out ideas and thoughts like, okay, here's what I believe about this thing, and people have challenged me on it. Like I'm not safe, you know, people challenge me and push back and say, no, that's wrong, and I have to contend with that thought and like, okay, what is that? Okay, so explain it to yourself, right? Or explain it for me. So gonna open the Discord. It's like, I don't know, I'm not selling anything, but I guess it's like buyer beware. Just be warned, it might challenge your preconceived notions. No, it will challenge your preconceived notions and perhaps even some biases. All right, the second thing is a few of us in the Discord have been talking about the idea of forming a coalition or a collective, essentially. And the point or the focus of this thing is basically to be a place where small content creators, small tabletop role-playing game makers, let's say that more specifically, could come to try and build their game. And what the collective would provide would be a place to play test your game, to get ideas, to get some pushback on mechanics or maybe setting ideas. It'd be a place where you could kind of like open the thing up and allow some people to look at it based on your comfortability. But it would also be a place where you could find artists and maybe resources to help get your thing produced, so that you're not just taking your TTRPG campaign or module or book or whatever and just throwing it on a drive-through RPG and having it disappear into obscurity. The point would be to get people like myself to look at it and then maybe do an interview with you, and we'd talk about your game and like just get some traction going, right? And so I'm interested in being a resource to people who are making games. I'm not really interested in making games myself. I got a lot of stuff to do, you know, but I'm interested in looking at other people's games, like as much as I can. I know Swords and Stones is looking for stuff. I know, or is making something. I know that AJ's making something. There's a lot of different people in, apparently my wife is in the channel too. I'll explain it. That's my wife. Hold on, just FYI, Riker is replaying what he saw in the video of himself. That's cute. Okay. Lex, thank you for telling me in chat. Anyway, so I want to go through something real quick. Let me find this on Instagram. A buddy of mine at church has just an amazing art gallery. And here, let me find him. Let me go to. I don't think I've ever gone to Instagram on my computer, so let's see if I can open it up. Let's see, Instagram. There we go. Am I wrong? I do have an Instagram account, but I barely ever use it. Yeah, I don't think it remembers my login information. With Facebook, I guess. Okay, login. Let's see. Yeah, hopefully it remembers my stuff. Close that. Go on, you can do it. So, part of the thing that the collective, we don't have a name for it, but the coalition, the collective, it's going to be made up of people like myself, content creators, maybe some streamers, artists, maybe musicians, depending on if you're trying to make a trailer for your tabletop RPG. People who are interested in promoting works that they love, and it's a place for us to come together and support other content creators. You know, it's like that rising tide raises all ships thing. So I know that there's probably lots of ways you can get your work published or kickstarted or whatever. Man, I'm really trying to get this. Let's see, how would I bring this up? Hold on, I gotta pay attention to Instagram for a second because it's telling me my password is old and okay. Is there a way I can go? Okay, is there a way I can get into Instagram without logging in? Let's see. Does it have a thing for me? Let's see. Log in. You can do it. Sorry, I should have remembered that I wanted to do this and have this set up in advance. All right. Let me try and just type in his name. Let's see. REGINALDROQUE. Yeah, it's a long last name. ROQUEMORE. Okay. Hopefully that comes up. There we go. All right. Hopefully I can look at this a little bit without it telling me I need to log in. It's probably going to tell me I need to log in. Oh, there it is. Okay. Close. I just want to look. Let's see. Is it going to? All right, cool. Okay. So actually, hey, this is my church. This is Jeff, and this is Reggie. Okay. So he's an artist, right? And he's got a whole... He has a whole... Like, this is all stuff he makes on his iPad, if I understand correctly. Let me try and make this move out of the way. Our goal is the collective or the coalition, whatever, would basically be a place to help creators, tabletop RPG creators, to find, this, right? Like artwork to put in things. Okay, looks like he has a whole bunch of different catalogs of things. Let me try and go to his September stuff. Oh, he's doing it again. Okay. Well, this is probably all I'm going to be able to take a look at right now. I know he has some reels where he like animates these things. Oh yeah. Okay. So he has some of these where he actually shows the animation process. Maybe let's see if I can get this to. Okay. It's because I will try and fix the. I'm gonna post a link to his Instagram in my Discord channel so people can actually take a look at his artwork. But I've already talked with Reggie, and he said he's potentially interested in starting to work in different ways, or maybe in a more focused way. And when I told him something about tabletop RPGs, his brain started working. The point of the coalition would be to find people like Reggie, find people who are making games, connect them together, find a group of people who want to test out your game, so you can get play tests with people who aren't necessarily your friends, so you can get accurate feedback or at least hopefully unbiased feedback. Anyway, so the coalition, the collective, whatever we're calling it, it doesn't necessarily have a name, but it's going to be, in some ways it's founded by people who are Christian, but like you're not required to believe the same way that we believe, just to be a part of the thing, right? And then our hope is to be a building community where someone who's trying to make a small game can find the resources they need to be successful at it, and to find the right market. So if this makes sense, you can let me know that this is something you're interested in participating in or being a part of. We want to grow this industry and bring in a new generation of kids and families into playing these things. Beyond just what Dungeons and Dragons brings in, if that makes sense. All right, so that's Reggie's stuff, and that was part of the idea of the coalition. All right, let's see. Yeah, so again, we're uncertain on the naming exactly, but we'll work on it. We'll put something, test it out, whatever. All right, so the third thing. Because it was first thanks for Riker, the idea of the collective, opening the discard. Okay, the third thing is myself and a gentleman who's making a game, and the guy Ticking Time Bob. If you don't know him, he's got a YouTube channel that focuses on Pendragon. But the three of us together are planning on starting a podcast, basically where we discuss tabletop RPGs, what we like in the systems, what we don't like, just, I don't know, just, but it's going to be more than just sort of personal tastes. It might be maybe some theory craft or some zeitgeist stuff, I mean, I probably won't get too heady because we tend to get a little silly, but it won't just be the three of us, though, because I get the sense that other people might be interested in talking, and we're definitely interested in talking with other people. So the point of the podcast would basically be to try some long form content, see how that does. And that's probably something that we're going to start recording this Wednesday if all of our schedules work out. We'll do that, and then, we'll just post whatever the hour to 3 hour video up. And then I'll probably go through and start cutting out like some little 20-minute sections if there's like a clear discussion about one topic of specificity. But the point of it would also be another way for us to bring in tabletop gaming creators to have like a round table discussion with people who are interested in the hobby, building things in the hobby, and want a place to talk about their game, right? So they're two separate things. The collective is more of like a resource place, and the podcast is, more maybe it's potentially advertising, but it's not just advertising, because we also want to try and, like get to the bottom of things or something, like try to come to consensus or flesh out ideas. So those are 3 ongoing things: new podcasts, the coalition, and then opening the Discord channel. That's, you guys, if you have thoughts on this, if this is something interesting to you, if you have some pushback on any of these ideas, go ahead and hit me back with it. But in the meantime, now that I've covered some of the news, I guess I'm gonna jump into the morality in tabletop RPGs first. But what I suspect I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start going through the comments on the morality idea, because again, this was something that the people were discussing in my Discord. So it in my mind, it came up as like an interesting discussion that there doesn't seem to be any consensus on, right? Like there's a few things where you can get like kind of consensus in tabletop RPGs. Okay, some things maybe, but this morality thing seems to be all over the place. And so I want to go through, and I'm interested to try and figure out if there's even like a Venn diagram, a Venn diagram of the morality ideas. So I'm gonna go through that, but I'm not gonna close out my notes on it until I give it a few more days. It's just there's already like 20 comments, and so I figure I might as well get a head start on it. If I get through all of those tonight, then I'm gonna go to the combat. I have 2 different videos asking for feedback on combat. One of them is like what happens when you make combat too big, and one of them is how do you make combat oh my goodness. How do you make combat like flow easily without like doing too much homework? Something like that. So I'm gonna, either tonight or through this week, I'll try and get to the combat ones, but I want to start with the morality one because I think that's the one that's most interesting to me. So let me shift back over here. All right, there's Riker being excited. All right, videos. Let me go back here. Let's see. What did we say about the Discord? Swords and Stones, it's a bummer. Okay, hold on. Unless you have friends... Hold on. Swords and Stones. Tons of cool artista on Instagram, for sure. Lots of inspiration. I'm there too. Okay. Unless you have friends like mine, if they think something isn't working... Well, if they think something isn't working, I hear it immediately. Okay, so they complain right away. I get you. Yeah, that's that can be really discouraging, I imagine, right? Like if you're working on, like if you're probably the same way that I was very discouraging with my friend Marshall when he was trying to present us his Alien versus Predator game. And that's why I made a video asking like, how do you give good feedback to someone trying to make a game? I got a lot of good responses about that. In fact, I actually probably should go through the comment section on that one soon as well. So it is like a fine art learning how to encourage someone through their artistic process. Let's see. Ticking Time Bomb says popping in to listen before I run my game at 6:30. Cool. Yeah, Bob, have a great time running your game. Ticking Time Bob here is one of the people who we're going to be running our podcast with. Make sure you let me know about your schedule this week, Bob, and whether or not Wednesday is going to work or not. All right, let me scroll down to the morality one. Let's see. There we go. Can you play a TTRPG without morality? And go to the comments. Okay, I unfortunately have responded to some of these. I made the mistake of going in, but I'm gonna just click on nothing. All right, and okay, so looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. About 22 different comments. We'll start going through these. I will take my time going through. Like, I'll try and be quick, but I'll also give myself a little bit of time to try and assess and appraise what people are saying, because there was a few things I encountered when I started first reading some of these things, and here I'll give you an example. Like, one of the things I came across was this section here, Anto Manifesto. So Anto was talking about like morality, but in a fantasy setting, right? And that was one of the things I went like, okay, obviously if we're talking about a fantasy setting, morality can go off the rails really quickly. And so, you have to structure out something kind of constraining, anyways, when I go through it, I'll explain my ideas and what was confusing me about it. But let's see. Okay, so, that's stream elements. And as well, I will also be trying to work a little harder on making the stream better. As I mentioned, I had a stream countdown timer. I'm probably going to keep that, but I will try and do a little more work, and I'm going to be working on the Discord thing and getting that to work so that we can have the conversations both in podcast form, and then maybe even during some of these streams, we'll just do direct conversations as a live stream, assuming that we have the sense it'll work well. All right, so the question is, again, can you run a tabletop RPG without morality? At least I think that's how I phrased it. Let me see. Can you play a TTRPG without morality? All right, help me make a video. And all right, so let's start right here with David Apollonius. He says, you start during session 0 by setting up. Now let me zoom in a little bit so it's not so small font. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 until the sidebar goes away. There we go. Okay. All right. You start during session 0 by setting expectations. Do you allow player versus player? And if so, what is and isn't allowed? Okay, so that's a good point. David is bringing up the idea of whether or not the morality extends to the metagame as well. That's a good point. Are you allowed to steal from another NPC? Are you allowed to kill? Oh, no, sorry, another PC. Are you allowed to kill a PC? What subjects are taboo? If slavery is taboo, for example, it functionally doesn't exist in your world at that time. All right, so this now gets into the realm of like that. What's that document called? The civil agreement or whatever. This gets into that area of like the civil agreement thing, which I'm not saying it right, but are we allowed to talk about spiders and unhappy thoughts? I like where he started with initially about the metagame morality. I think that's actually a helpful place to frame the initial discussion. So I think I'm gonna take an idea from this that's gonna help me structure out the rest of the discussion, and that is morality from the real world versus morality in the game or something. And maybe I'll make a dichotomy or something. Real world morality and game world. Okay. Let's see. Swords and Stone says, AJ Hennings, nope, didn't have much luck with Discord, even though I began TTRPGs in 1981 due to the length of my break. When I came back in 2020, my game knowledge doesn't allow me to delve too much, okay, into most conversations. Morality is a matter of upbringing. Okay, as far as personal beliefs, session 0 should be a good time to chat about this, and I believe the DM/GM should lay the foundation for games morality. And so I think the initial discussion was, in the Discord, the initial discussion was based on the idea of should villains just be evil in your world? Like they're just, like mustache twirling evil, or should there be nuanced shades of gray, where you find out that the villain had a rough childhood or something, or the villain, didn't get like enough hugs, and so they're a villain because of not enough hugs. Which means that the players are in a moral quandary to some degree to go, do we have to give nurture to this villain, or something, right? And the conversation wasn't resolved, and I don't know that I really had an opinion that resolved it, which is why I went to go ask the question here, because I'm structuring this out. In my mind, it's good to give players a mustache twirling villain, but at the same time, that does feel a little bit fake. It doesn't seem to really make sense to just have like a character with no motives. They just want to be evil for evil's sake. That's kind of a confusing idea. Then you kind of go like, well, what do you mean evil? Like, okay, when they make their eggs, are they being evil? When they drink their beer, is it stolen? Like, is everything they do evil? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's what I know. Yeah, it's probably one of those things you probably don't have to think about too much. But if you don't think about it at all, you end up with the player's handbook of Dungeons and Dragons that's just filled with incongruity, or you end up with a fictional universe where the monsters are fighting against each other in their own progress. Like they're always kingdoms divided, right? Okay, so right away I'm getting the idea of separating this out into real world morality and then game world morality, and there might be over under on that. There might be like a congregation of ideas, but we'll see. All right, let's see. Derp says, what do people think about blue-orange morality? Interesting. When you say blue-orange morality, is that morality outside the spectrum of green and red or something? If that's what you're saying, then yeah, it's kind of pushing it to not a fringe, but it's less clear, I guess. Derp says, I don't think it makes any sense, which I guess is kind of the point. Seems impossible to do, though. Peter hold on, I almost got your name wrong. Peter Bastedo says they handled blue-orange morality perfectly in the latest Lower Decks episode. Interesting. I have not watched the new Star Trek since Discovery. I haven't really cared for the Kirkman. The Kirkman and CBS Star Treks, they just they're not for me. Let's see, never heard of it. Reading a little about it now. Interesting, Derp. Okay, yeah, I hadn't heard of blue and orange morality either. Crafty Matt says, hope you bring up Mr. Wargaming video, what we discussed in the private chat. Hope you do. Okay, yes. That's a really good point. So I watched. All right, let me bring it up in a little side thing. Hang on. Bring this up. This is my Discord channel. Somewhere in here is, I think this was in the question and answer section. Crafty Matt posted a video from a guy called Mr. Wargaming. All right, I'm just going to bring up our private message for a second because it had, there we go, the video link. All right, I'm going to go visit. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm not going to go play through this guy's whole video because that's kind of rude, but if you want to check him out, it's called The Joy of Wargaming, and he made a video talking about like morality in the games. And one point I'm going to bring up of his that I really liked, it was the idea of allowing your players the ability to play the Bronstein method with them. Like you essentially allow your players to get into the mind of the villain. You ask your players, okay, what is the necromancer doing this week while you guys are at the inn and fixing things up, whatever? What's the necromancer doing? What do you think the necromancer is going to do here? For example, in our own personal game, my players defeated this orc chieftain who was a resource to the evil powers there, right? But they defeated him. So I'm gonna, in my mind, I got to go, okay, what is the evil necromancer demon guy going to do now that one of his tools has been taken out of the game and there's this band of heroes here? What is he going to do to counteract the heroes? I could even go and ask my players, and this guy, Mr. Joy of Wargaming, is recommending that you do it. And I love the point that he tried to make, because what he says is, if you allow your players to try and get into the mindset of the villains, you're allowing them to really understand what they're up against. And then still make the choice to fight it, right? Like you're allowing them to level up their courage, you know, in the game sense, where they go into it and say, oh, we actually, you know, metagame know that this guy did this really destructive thing because we Bronstein played him, and now we're about to go fight him. Or we know that when he catches prisoners, he kills them, or he turns them into like his slaves or something, right? So we know if we go fight him, our characters might be turned into like slaves or whatever, okay? But the point is, I think it was actually a pretty good video, and I could understand someone watching it and disagreeing with some of the points that he made, because I disagreed with some of the points that he made, and I would actually be very interested in getting into a conversation with him where I could say like, hey, I disagree with some of your points. But again, I'm not going to play his video. You can take a look at it yourself. I thought it was an interesting examination into the idea of morality in the game and kind of why we play these games and that type of thing. So, Crafty Matt, thank you for bringing it up. It was on point. All right, let me jump back into actually reading David Apollonius's comment and not rambling on for forever. Okay, so he starts with the idea of bringing up the morality in the game world, in the real world first, but in the real world and also in the game world. Okay. I'm not sure how I feel about the idea of cutting slavery out of my game, because people are offended by slavery. Because if that's a bonkers idea right there, because if I have to cut out slavery, there can't be any thieves. You know, like there can't be a thieves guild in the world, right? Because if there's any thieves and they take property from someone, the thief has made that person their slave, at least through, you know, through the 7 rules of, or the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you know, like, but it's still, that's slavery. So, all right. But I get the point. It's a conversation in real time, in the real world, in session 0. Okay. All right. I like that. Campaign setting supplements might have information about laws and punishments. Okay. TSR used to publish soft covers about just about every region in the Forgotten Realms and Mystera. Okay, so those are locations in the worlds. All right, Paizo has lots of material on all other regions. There's a region in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. I'm guessing that's a campaign where an angel rules over a city and has established a strict benevolent dictatorship with a curfew and other strict laws. Okay, so, all right, and I get it. Let's see. If you want to homebrew something, you can still use these things for ideas and make sure you cover all bases. I've played in a Ways of Wicked campaign. What is Ways of Wicked? I'm assuming that's an evil campaign, like you're playing as corrupt evil, chaotic evil or something. I've played in a Ways of Wicked campaign. I'd say that serving an evil overlord is not my cup of tea. I've heard about the Evil Olympics where everyone is competing to do the most evil thing, which might be fun as a shorter arc. Oh my goodness. I would really like to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions about playing an evil campaign. Like I have my own, which is like, let me finish this comment and then I'm going to ramble for a minute. Competing to do the most evil thing, which might be fun as a shorter arc. Necessary Evil is a Savage Wars plot point campaign. So some of the reason I'm having trouble reading through this comment is there's a lot of proper noun type of stuff that's like I don't recognize these. I don't know. Necessary Evil is a Savage Wars plot point. Like since those are capitalized, I'm assuming those are campaigns or something. I don't know what this whole sentence means so far. Necessary Evil is a Savage Wars plot point campaign where you play supervillains who have to save the world from an alien invasion. And to me, that sounds like the best way to play an evil campaign. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what Necessary Evil is, but since it's capitalized, it feels like it's an official thing, like it's you know, it's proper noun. So all right, overall. So overall from this, I'm taking the idea that you have to structure this out in both real world and in-game. And you have to have a real world discussion about the ramifications of in-game discussion stuff. And you have to let the players, I like the idea of asking, hey, do you guys want to be able to kill each other's player characters? Or whatever, yeah, player characters. I'm going to write that down as a thought. That is a real world conversation. Let's see. That's not how you spell can. Can you kill each other's players? Kill each other's characters. Okay. Can you kill each other's characters? Can you steal from each other? This is like a side note. Can Riker eat your food? You steal. You steal from each other. Okay. But then more than that, okay, so the thing he's mentioning about campaign settings and supplements having their own laws and systems and punishments, I don't know what to do with that, because he's right. Like you could get a campaign where the laws are implemented in the campaign, and I get the sense that that could be even more frustrating and difficult to deal with, because you could get a campaign where like it's just nonsense, right? Like if you look at Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition campaigns, the laws and morality systems are so stupid and incredibly incoherent. It's hard for me as a dungeon master to make sense of what the ramifications of a thing are in the world, because everything is based in nonsense. Like it doesn't make any, like, I don't want to lay too hard into it and like go off on too much of a rant. Obviously you can, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can say something, but from what I've looked at from Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, which is not comprehensive, but I've looked at stuff from Dungeons and Dragons, I've gotten the sense that the campaigns you buy from them, you're going to start off and you have an incoherent mess. So it's going to be more work for you as a dungeon master trying to reorganize, like to uncross all the wires. Like, I think it'd just be easier to start with your own thing, or start with like a hex crawl campaign, right? Like start with something pretty basic, as opposed to taking these characters and their motivations and trying to go, wait, like, why are they doing that? Like, what's their goal? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't disagree that you can do this, but I feel like doing this is more work. Either way, maybe it's good to look at that and get an idea. I don't know. You guys can tell me what you think. Let me see what. All right, never heard of it. We're talking about the orange thing. Okay. See, I'm typically at lawful evil state when making my eggs. Just saying. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Let's see. Tabletop families is to me. Okay. Crafty Matt says, remember, playing with a lack of morality is exactly what our enemies want. If we play with a morally bankrupt player character in the game, it becomes easier to act morally bankrupt in real life. So that is the premise of the video I brought up, and I do not necessarily disagree. But at the same time, I would want to have the conversation with someone, probably like in person, not to play devil's advocate, but at least to push the idea and see what kind of legs it's standing on. This is kind of the reason why I wanted to have a discussion with this guy. I don't know the name of the guy who runs the Joy of Wargaming, but I'd like to have a discussion with the Joy of Wargaming guy and approach it as though I disagreed. I think I do agree, and I'm not trying to go into it like in bad faith. I'm trying to go, all right, well, like, so what's the worst that happens if I play an evil character, right? Like, does it mean I stop bringing snacks to our tabletop RPG? You know what I mean? Like what do you think the real world manifestation of that thing is? And again, not necessarily do I disagree with that. In fact, I think I do agree. I recognize that the times in my life where I have spent an incredible amount of time being selfish, doing a thing, selfishness begets more selfishness. So playing as a kind and endearing character who cares about, you know, the Jorgen's farmstead and is trying to save peasants from, you know, monsters and stuff, that is a character that you want to identify with, right? That's a character you want to be. I can understand his argument. I just don't want to make his argument for him. So, Crafty Matt, thank you for reminding me to bring that up. Let's see. TSL Frontman says, you can definitely differentiate stealing from slavery. Both are taking unfairly from the person. Hang on. You can definitely differentiate stealing from slavery. All right, let's hear it. You are both things. Stealing and slavery are unfairly taking something from a person. All right, we agree. but one is very different than, say, the transatlantic slave trade of kidnapping people. All right, thieves guilds also focus on taking from the rich or powerful NPCs. It becomes an epic task to steal the magic staff from the master wizard, possibly an evil one for extra drama or gray morality. Okay, I understand the point that you're making, which is to say that the theft. Let me see if I can. All right, so there is a Robin Hood storyline, right? There's obviously a Robin Hood storyline where someone is stealing from, whatever, the sheriff of Nottingham, who was already stealing, getting the getters, right? There's the people who are doing the stealing from the poor, and you go steal the poor people's stuff back. I don't think that's stealing. you know what I mean? Like, that's justice, but that's justice when the law has become corrupt. So I wouldn't call that stealing. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be willing to have someone push back on me, but I don't think Robin Hood is a thief. I think Robin Hood actually becomes the law. Like, now we're talking about the structural symbolism of reality. In an upside down world, the sheriff of Nottingham, who's the chief of the police, is a corrupt official, right? And so that means that the pyramid is flipped over. Like, the whole world is flipped over. In that world, the jester is a king, and you can see that symbolically represented when Disney makes the cartoon, right? The King John, he sucks his thumb. He's a baby, right? Everything's upside down in that world. And Robin Hood is doing a crime according to that corrupt kingdom. That's not theft, though. That is taking back what the corruption has done wrong. Like, the corrupt system they have presented law as unlaw. So in that case, the vigilante comes in, like the Batman comes in to be, hey, stop yelling, please. Thank you. The vigilante comes into the system and acts as the moral order. I don't think I would call that theft, though. I understand your point to compare Robin Hood to that, but an actual thief. TSL frontman, do you think an actual thief aims for the rich and the powerful, or do you think actual thieves aim for what is easy to take? Sure, there are bands of thieves here in California where I live, where people go and smash open a Nordstrom's and start running out with product, right? Like, that happens. Okay, Nordstrom's is a big corporation, but that thing puts everyone in servitude, right? Like, everyone who goes and shops at Nordstrom's now has to pay 10% more to go buy whatever Nordstrom sells, clothes or something. So I'm not sure I see a distinction between theft and slavery. They both do what they can to make someone else, a servant to you without, you know what I mean? Like, in both cases, you end up with slavery. Someone who's doing a job and they're not receiving something for it. Or someone does a job, but you get to take what they just earned. The end result is someone gains from someone else's labor, right? That's the crux of it. You do work, but I take your, you plant a bunch of seeds, I steal your crop, right? I understand your point to try and make a distinction, but I don't think Robin Hood is a thief. And that, again, that's looking at the symbolic framework of the story, because the Sheriff of Nottingham is not the law. The Sheriff of Nottingham is a crook. Anyways, let's see. Peter Bastedo says, I would imagine playing out necessary evil would be like Lex Luthor trying to save the world from Superman taking over the world. So I don't know what necessary evil. Okay. Necessary evil is essentially, so it's like the Chronicles of Riddick. You get like the anti-hero and you try and make the anti-hero want to do good stuff. To be honest, I'm not sure that's an interesting story to play out. It's an interesting story to watch. Like, it's kind of fun to watch Chronicles of Riddick, but he sucks. Riddick sucks, right? He doesn't go and save the good guy, he's just as likely to shiv you. Okay, Shane from The Walking Dead. When Shane from The Walking Dead goes and shoots that fat guy in the leg and leaves him to be killed by the zombies. That's necessary evil. When you finish watching that story, oh, that sucks. You know, it sucks to watch that story. Same thing with like Game of Thrones. That's why I don't like Game of Thrones. You can't root for anyone in that story. They all suck. Like there is not a like. Okay, I would take 1,000 Boromirs. You know, like corrupted, sad characters that are just they're desperate to do a thing, but they turn themselves around in a last heroic effort to hold the line. You know, and like stand up for the hobbits, and they've just taken arrows after arrows. I would take 1,000 Boromirs over a single character in Game of Thrones, or Shane's or Riddick's. Yes, they're kind of fun to watch, but they're kind of fun to watch in some sort of Schadenfreude way. You know, it feels like showering in sand or something. You know, I mean, like there's a purification to it where after you watch that thing, you're like, I want to go to college. Okay, if college didn't suck, I want to learn stuff and make something of myself. I want to go hug my kids right now. You know, it's that type of thing. So I don't know if those are really inspirational characters to play in a tabletop role-playing game, but I understand the point. I'm just like, okay, you guys tell me, is it fun to play a morally gray character in a tabletop role-playing game? And more than that, is it rewarding? You know, let's take fun down. Maybe it's fun to steal from the other players or stab one of the other players in the head while they're sleeping, you know, because they're annoying. All right, they make a new character. Maybe it's fun in the moment, but like, is that rewarding? Like, is that style? Okay, and then if that's not happening, if you don't have, okay, everyone goes to bed, right? All the evil characters go to bed. One person stays awake, steals everyone's stuff. Like, do those people want to play with that guy anymore? You know, so you as the DM, like you've set up the situation, you know, and you've allowed it to happen, and you can't really not allow that to happen. And when you're playing those characters, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you adjudicate that system as a dungeon master, and I don't know why you'd even. I'm going to keep reading you guys' comments for a second, and then I'm going to continue on down here. Is there anything else I'm taking from this? Okay, so game world morality, I'm going to say look at pre-printed campaigns, for ideas, but I'm still going to lean into the idea that pre-printed campaigns are probably mostly going to be garbage. I know those are fighting words, but I'm interested to hear you guys push back. Like, if you've gone through like the Curse of Strahd, and the Curse of Strahd has an excellent moral dilemma that's good for players to try and find their heroic way, great, tell me, right? People are praising Curse of Strahd and various other pre-printed campaigns, but the few pre-printed campaigns or like pre-written, like official modules that I've looked at have been a mixed bag, you know, and more times than not, it's like, I don't know why I would run this. All right, so look at pre-printed campaigns. I'm just gonna put question mark at the end of that, so I like, you know, and maybe like an underline. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go down a little bit here. Oh, hey, TSL Frontman. All right, let me get to the rest of your comments, TSL Frontman, because you followed up the idea with something. All right, let's see. I know I'm skipping a few, but I just want to go through TSL Frontman's because I kind of pushed back on an idea. So TSL Frontman says, Robin Hood really was kind of just a vigilante tax adjuster. Okay, that's fair. The law decided he was evil, while the people decided he was helpful, so it was justified to them. Okay. Let's see. Star to answer. All right. So, this is responding to the thing. Okay, to answer. I think in reality, most people steal because, this is to whether or not people steal from the rich or for what's easy. Okay, I think in reality, most people steal because they see that option worth the risk of getting arrested, and they don't care about the social repercussions, and that's their best option. Interesting. Okay, and I'm gonna keep reading what you say. All right. More my point was that slavery, as in owning a person, is leagues worse than taking X hours of labor from someone when you stole one expensive thing or et cetera, okay? Unless you live under a mafia or something. Okay, so let's say the thing someone steals is your car, right? you're still making, okay, let's say you finally finished paying off your car. You maybe even dipped into your savings to pay off your car. So someone comes and takes your, I don't know, car prices, whatever. Your car's like $40,000, so it's like a middling good car. It's not a Tesla, right? So it's not like a year's salary or something, but they've taken your car. I guess $40,000 could be someone's year's salary. Let's say it's $40,000 and that combined was your year's salary. Doesn't that make you a slave for a year? Like someone just, let's hope you have an insurance policy to cover theft or whatever. For the hypothetical, we're going to say you don't. So you are just, someone has stolen an item that was, because, you know what I mean? Yeah, if someone steals my mouse, all right, whatever, that was a little bit of labor, okay? Or maybe this was a gift or something, but let me continue reading what she said. Regarding playing a morally gray character, I think either the setting makes PCs acceptable as gray, or dilemmas presented to the players require a gray uncertain option. I don't think playing gray is good or particularly exciting if the setting doesn't make that dramatically relevant. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, okay, that gives me some ideas about game world morality, setting dictates moral tone. Moral tone, but I want to make that more specific. Moral tone and focus. Okay, which is a good point to make out. I'm going to get back to the rest of the comments in a second, then I'm going to go actually to read TSL Frontman's comment here. The point of thank you for articulating that. The point of me writing that down is there's a lot of power in the game master's hands, right? Like the game master has a lot of power in their ability to bring forward a morally complex story to their players. And I think I agree with Crafty Matt and Crafty Matt's friend from the Joy of Wargaming that if you as the dungeon master aren't stepping into not morally gray areas, but morally questioning areas, like areas that like make the players question morality. If you're not stepping into that thing and allowing your players to be good characters against evil characters, you might be missing a big opportunity. Like that could be a huge aspect of missed opportunity in that thing that we talked about a few weeks ago, which was like, what's the job of the dungeon master, right? Like the dungeon master's job is to listen to people and help them to feel not purposeful, but powerful, right? Like listen to people while helping them to feel powerful, right? And so if you as the dungeon master want to do that thing, maybe the best focus for that is creating a morally good potential or like creating a framework for the players to be morally good in a world that is rife with evil. Okay, so now this is spinning out of control. I missed a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna scan through. Let's see what I missed. All right, that was TSL Frontman stuff. Remember playing with the lack of morality. Okay, that's right. Okay, let's see. Peter Becerro. Peter, see, I would imagine playing out necessary evil. Okay, yeah, with the Lex Luthor one. Knife Wolf says, good evening to everyone. Good evening, Night Wolf. Let's see, Load Claw says, yes, the official adventures for D&D 5th edition are incomprehensible and and require retooling by the DM almost from scratch to make it make sense. Okay, that's the sense that I got, like, but at the same time, I don't want to be like gaslighting about it if there are a few good modules. I'm sure that they probably have put out a few good modules, so I don't want to, spin that in the wrong direction, but at the same time, I get the sense that there's a lot of tabletop RPG written works that are incomprehensible within the framework of morality, and some of that comes from the idea that people keep establishing that morality is just an opinion, right? Like I know this kind of leans into a politics thing, and I don't mean for it to lean into politics. It's just I keep seeing it come up in the tabletop RPG space, and I keep seeing it come up in video games and television shows and movies, and so like all the media seems to be suggesting that good and evil are opinions. And for example, if I were to say to you, stealing is wrong, that's just my opinion, And, you know, you could argue with it, right? Or there'd be some, you know, well, I mean, you know, we don't know why this person's stealing, right? So since we don't know why they're stealing, we can't say it's wrong. And that works until a point when it doesn't, right? And at some point we find an area where everyone can agree, no, we recognize that thing is wrong, whatever that thing is, right? Like slavery or something. We recognize that thing is wrong, but you know what I mean? There's all this idea that everything is morally gray, and so I get the sense this is something you need to work out for your game. And if you don't work this out for your game will probably turn into that moral gray area where your players are, they're not necessarily going to be taking slaves or something, but maybe they don't defeat the necromancer when they find out the necromancer had a ruddy childhood or something. Like, oh, this necromancer, they had a hard life, so we should probably partner with them and make, you know, cookies together or something. Like that seems like that's where a lot of games are going. And I don't know. I lost the question I was actually trying to answer here, but let me go back to the comments real quick. Oh, okay. Thank you. Mr. Wargaming is John Mullison. All right. Thank you for sending me the video in Discord. I appreciate that, Matt. It's tactfully acquiring, not stealing. The items have already been stolen beforehand. I totally agree, Nightwolf. And I mean, that's the thing is like, if you create, okay, so if you as the dungeon master create an upside down world where there is a corrupt dictator and your players go into the system with the need to start stealing from the corrupt dictator, I don't think that's creating a morally gray world. That's a clear morality. Your players are coming into an upside down world, right? This is where you start getting to like Jonathan Pajot and like the symbolic world. Like, if you understand that your player, like,
I'll be careful. Daddy,
yes, Riker.
I want to go to Bishop's room.
No, we're not going to Bishop's room. You're leaving Bishop's room alone, buddy.
I want a little bird.
No, you're not going to take Bishop's stuff, Bubs. Okay? Are you guys going for a drive or what y'all doing?
In a little bit.
Okay, all right. If you create a world where the rules are upside down, like, okay, here for example, you guys, have anyone played The Witcher 3? Like, The Witcher 3 is like an entire game world filled with... All right, they're a little loud. I don't know if you guys can hear them, but they're going to be here. So I could switch microphones, but I'm not gonna. So, all right, in an upside down world like The Witcher 3, right? There's like that storyline with the Bloody Baron, and okay, there's the story with those ladies in the Trail of Treats, right? The Witcher comes up on these witches, and you know, right there you have this moral dilemma. Do you kill these witches, you know, who are terrible child-eating, you know, cultist witches? You know, obviously you kill them, right? But it flips it, and it creates this situation where, you know, you know what I mean? Like, those are fun and interesting questions that if you aren't posing to your players, like, there's a lot of missed opportunity. All right, I know I'm getting distracted a lot and just running my mouth, and I want to try and stick to this. So I'm gonna scan real quick. All right, thieves, I agree. Okay, let's see. AJ Henning says, also cartoonish evil is a very nice shield to genuine evil, which is a bit more clever, nuanced, and inspired in its goals. It's a little more deep than muahaha. Okay, so I totally agree. When I try and think of the framework of morality, I tend to go to C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis does a very good job within Mere Christianity of explaining good and evil and the framework that good and evil exists. And he does so by declaring that no one does evil for evil's sake, right? Like, that's not a thing. Like, no one does an evil thing just for the sake of doing evil things, but people do good things for the sake of doing good things. And you can see that, like, all over the place. You can see that, like, played out. But people do evil things because it's easier, or because doing something good is harder. So they do it for the sake of convenience, not simply to do it. But people do good things for the sake of doing good things, even when it's an inconvenience, right? So since you can see that, and you know your own real-world examples, C.S. Lewis argues that evil is far more powerful than good, that good is far more powerful than evil, because good is something you could do for its own sake, right? It's a really, really good explanation, and if you haven't gone through, like, C.S. Lewis' book, Mere Christianity, it's really helpful just to look at morality. Like, even if you don't believe in Christianity, the first couple chapters on morality is, I would probably use that for, like, building my own world if I was building a world, just to understand the dichotomy between good and evil and the power structures that are established there. So I agree with AJ Hennings. If you just do mustache twirling, right? But if you do Prince John, who's a coward, you know, but he happens to have power and he's a coward, like that's a good evil, right? Because even cowards don't respect themselves, and like, so a cowardly evil force is someone that like everyone can understand, like, oh yeah, we don't like cowardice, like that's, you know, no one likes cowards. AJ, what's the saying? Kill the traitors before the enemy. I think that's the saying. But let me keep going. Okay, I got TSL Frontmans. Got that one. Okay. Load Claw says, it can be fun and rewarding to play a morally gray character, but it requires cooperation from the DM, and there has to be a caveat that you don't do cruel things to fellow players. It can be fun and rewarding to play a morally gray character, but it requires cooperation from the DM. There has to be a caveat that you don't do cruel things to fellow players. Okay, I could understand that you might have a fun time doing that thing, but the last part of your sentence seems to require that you would make a fake morally gray character, because a morally gray character probably wouldn't see a distinguishment at some point between their friends and their enemies. Especially if their friend ever came in the way of them in a goal, right? Like if a friend ever came in the way of them in a goal, you know, why, you know, okay, is it just for the long-term benefit? So then it's still like it's a trade agreement. It's not friends. I don't know if morally gray people can have friends, you know, or at least not long-term friends. I don't believe someone who doesn't believe in morals can have a friendship. And that's, you know, I don't think that's contentious, but so I would disagree that, like, you could do that, sure, but then you're essentially asking your players to play unrealistic characters. Does that make sense? All right, let's see. AJ Henning says, hell yes it is. Morally gray isn't peaking the table. I don't know what that means, AJ. Andrew says, how are you equating slavery? How are you equating slavery to paying 10% more at Nordstrom's? I feel like you're focusing a lot on the taking from someone else's labor, but ignoring the restrictions of freedom and movement. Let's see. That's fair. That's fair pushback. Let me think about that for a second. Well, yeah, I guess it comes down to trying to discern what in fact slavery is. And so, yes, if you're saying that slavery in all of its forms throughout all of history is exactly the same type of slavery that we've understood from what was existent in American slavery, then yeah, I guess that is a pretty narrow definition of slavery, and that is a very small window with which to look at slavery. But, you know, there would be people, like historians might even argue, that there were kingdoms that had fiefdoms, and the people who worked in the fiefdoms were serfs. They had a different word for it, but serfs or servants or slaves. You know, and like basically everything that they produced, they had to turn into the king, you know, and that's existed throughout all of history. You know, and I'm not arguing that what America did with slavery and black people, like, is just theft. You're right. No, there's a compunction to loss of control and loss of freedom. I'm not trying to diminish that thing by comparing it, but, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, when you break that down to fundamentally what it is taking someone's time and labor. Okay, I get what you're saying. There's also a component of loss of freedom. Fair enough. I will concede that the loss of freedom and the inability to choose a daily task or an ability is there. And simple theft does not accommodate that, or does not also project that into the person's life, to put that in a rudimentary way. But I get your point. Well made. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, the pre-painted campaigns are terrible. We got that one already. Okay, very true. Night Wolf, morally gray. Okay, stealing. Okay, I'm gonna get to TSL Frontman's comment here and try and get some more ideas on page so that I keep a little bit focused. Okay, so TSL Frontman says, I think morality ethics in TTRPGs exist based on what is presented to the players by the DM. Okay, Depending on the repercussions presented, a game could have basically no morally gray areas, okay? But morally mostly used for tension. Oh, I'm sorry, but morality mostly used for tension. Depending on the repercussions presented, a game could have basically no moral gray areas. So like everything would be black and white. I think I understand that. But morality mostly used for tension to change role-playing problems into dilemmas. Okay, trolley car dilemmas, or kidnapped children dilemmas. I got you. Kill the troll and save the village could include either the troll eats babies and laughs while doing so, or the troll was abandoned by the village by a village member and it needs meat to live. Okay, gotcha. Both are go stop the troll, but they have different lines to cross about what is good or bad. What is good or bad about it? Okay, I totally understand that. I totally understand I understand the difference of motives that change a thing, and I think Proverbs, as a book from the Bible, covers that thing very well when it talks about theft versus adultery and the way that changes people when that particular type of immorality manifests in the world. So, troll that eats babies, very different than troll needs to eat meat to live and steals horses. Gotcha. Well done with the differentiation. Players can't just assume that being heroic is a good idea. Players can't just assume that being heroic is a good idea, as opposed to being a kleptomaniac murder hobo. I don't know what you mean by that. Players can't just assume that being heroic is a good idea, as opposed to being a kleptomaniac murder hobo. The DM needs to present the story that way via the gameplay options. The game doesn't need moral significance, but since you're trying to stimulate a kind of a reality, it behooves everyone to include a sense of morality in the world naturally. I don't know how I feel about your last statement here. The players can't just assume that being heroic is a good idea. So, yeah, like what do you mean there? I'm lost for how to put that. So, like that seems like an argument that morals aren't a real thing in reality, and so if you started a game with the premise of morals being in place, it might not be natural for players to fall into. Do you know what I mean? Like, am I saying that the way you're saying it? So like, okay, are you saying I can't just assume that the players are going to want to be heroic, right? Like, I need to assume that the players might be coming into this game because they want to be like slave owners, maybe, right? Like, is that? And so therefore I need to, as the dungeon master, put into place systems and parameters with which to guide the players toward the moral outcome that I see as fitting. Like I need to not railroad them morally, but I need to make clear the distinction between good and bad in the world. Is that what, am I understanding that correctly? Let's see. AJ Hennings says, morally gray with stealing would be, I grew up starving, I will steal food for urchins because I choose to. I grew up starving, okay, so I'm going to steal food for urchins because I choose to. It is outside of the law and standard morals. Is it right, yes or no? That is an interesting moral quandary. I agree, AJ Hennings. That's the type of question that Star Trek The Next Generation used to ask. Man, they used to ask some really good... That's why I don't watch the CBS Star Trek. They don't ask the... I haven't watched it in a long time, but what I saw of it, it wasn't asking those kind of questions with the degree that I was used to it. All right, let's see. So TSL Frontman says, so years... Okay, let's see. So years slavery, kind of yes. Hold on, is that related to something? Oh, for Nightwolf. Let me see. Nightwolf said, more so, TSL Frontman, is there consequences that match the drama of the game? Is there consequences that match the drama of the game? Okay, that's a... All right, so that's giving me some ideas about some stuff to write down. Let's see. Bad things will happen, consequences are coming, but is that gratifying? Sure, it's part of the point with it. Hell yeah. All right, so... TSL Frontman says, so years... Okay, let me see. Nightwolf said, more so, TSL Frontman, is there consequences that match the drama of the game? Is there consequences that match the drama of the game? Okay, that's a... All right, so that's giving me some ideas about some stuff to write down. Let's see. Bad things will happen, consequences are coming, but is that gratifying? Sure, it's part of the point with it. Hell yeah. All right, so Oh, I'm sorry. So year's salary. I read that wrong. Year's salary, kind of, yes. Okay. But I think I'm adjusting for all the terrible things included. No amount of losing work hours is as terrible as being owned by another human being. And I think whoever it was that wrote that a little earlier up, someone wrote that and I read it. Are you looking for mommy, buddy?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Stop!
Let's see. Oh, it was Andrew. Yeah, okay. So Andrew made a good point of saying that the loss of freedom comes in. And I think that's a good distinguishing aspect because it is an oversimplification to equate the lost car and a year's worth of labor with a life that was lived outside of freedom. But I would still say that the end result is, to some degree, some loss of freedom. So there is similarity. There is similarity. All right. And I think some of this comes from the framework that we might be looking at slavery, and it is in that sense like it's the narrow view of slavery has only ever been this one way, you know. But there were other types of slavery that were existent in all sorts of cultures throughout all of human history forever, where someone goes, "We're taking your people, and you know you're going to work for us now," and some of that comes with gradations of freedom. Some where it's like, no, we're taking you and we're going to eat you. And some where it's like, we're taking you and you're going to work nearby us and you're going to, you know, give us tariffs or something, right? Like, but, okay. Well, I guess if we're only going to look at it within the framework of American slavery, sure, it's different. I concede that. All right. Now I'm thinking of a method actor preparing to play a role of Hannibal Lecter. Interesting. Okay. That's horrible. That's horrible, Peter. I just put together what you were saying. Nightwolf says, I think one of the issues and main issue with creating a party with mixed morals, such as lawful, neutral, lawful, evil, isn't the characters they make, it's the players wanting to win as said character. All right, that's interesting as well. Let me see if TSL Frontman has... All right, TSL Frontman has responded to my question about his comment. Okay, the players can't assume good morality. The players can't assume good morality. I sort of list the emphasis on text, but I mean to say players need to be encouraged to be heroic. Okay, if you don't guide the heroic tone, they might just murder hobo. I think that's fair. Okay, I think it's fair, and I think there is an aspect where you as the dungeon master set the tone. Okay, let me think. So in our current campaign, I think some of the ways that I've helped to set the tone is by making lovable NPCs and allowing the characters to fall in love with those NPCs, and then allowing the players to try and do things for the sake of those NPCs, even to the point where they might sacrifice something of their own for those NPCs. For example, my son started giving armor and weapons that he found to the local blacksmith because he bonded with the local blacksmith. And so he's giving of his own resources by choice in the game because he loves an NPC. So maybe what you're saying is you need to create connections in the world that the players love and care about so that they can choose to sacrifice for those characters. And you need to make evil people in the world who are opposed to the lovable characters. Am I understanding that? Because if that's what you're saying, that totally makes sense to me. That happens to be what I have done in our campaign. It just kind of happened because I was playing this Dragonbane campaign, and I think it's pretty well written. All right, let me scan back through. I'm gonna take a couple things from what TSL Frontman said here. Okay, I'm gonna add a new card. This is gonna be Game World Morality. Okay, so Game World Morality, I'm going to put something about this framework of the troll that eats babies versus the troll that was abandoned by the village and needs to eat meat. And it is characters doing bad things. Okay, create. This is like information for a dungeon master, I guess. Create good characters who do bad things create good characters who do bad things because it's easy. And create bad characters who do good things. And I'm not quite sure where to go with that. Create who create bad characters who do good things. I'm not sure what the because is. Let me think. So let me give you some thoughts that I have about this whole idea. So the interesting thing about this like morality thing in tabletop RPGs is, from what I can tell, this is like one of the deeper areas of TTRPGs, because like even as we're talking right now, there are some aspects of thinking of this that's, I don't want to say it's exhausting, that's an over exaggeration, but it's like my brain is going and I'm like, I don't even know what to write down. Like when we're going through the comments on like how to be a player, there's a bunch of it where I'm just kind of going like, okay, got an idea. Here I'm going like, oh, what do I do with this? You know what I mean? And it's because it's, but here's the part of it that feels important, right? Like, I think if you're DMing a game and you fail to get the moral aspect of your game, not only will you get murder hobos, you'll get players who disconnect from their characters, you'll get players who disconnect from the world, you'll get players who disconnect from the setting and even their own choices, like their own character and stuff. Like there's a whole bunch of incongruence that happens with a world that has devalued morality. Like morality is that, okay, morality is the shopping cart quandary, right? It's like, do you take the shopping cart back to the area where shopping carts go? Have you seen that? There's like a meme, right? Like, if you take the shopping cart back to the thing, like there's no benefit, there's no gain, no one even notices you do it. It's a thankless job, but you can kind of tell a little bit about someone who, if they take the shopping cart back to the, what's that thing called? Like the cart stop? You know what I mean? Like you don't just leave it in the parking lot to get run over by cars. And if you don't do that, I mean, like shame and judgment on you. It's one of those things where you can kind of get a sense of a moral question, right? So your job as the dungeon master is to try and create that in your world. And if you fail to do that in your world, it's like it's probably a pretty big missed opportunity. Because one of the things it means is you might not be able to ask your characters, your players, you might not be able to ask your players hard questions. Okay, let's go back to Star Trek Next Generation for a second. Like Star Trek Next Generation is that show where it's like they have the prime directive, right? Like they have the thing, right? And it's important that they have the prime directive because that prime directive, it's so essential for the whole stupid show, right? They have the people on the planet who they don't know about interspace travel or whatever. So Captain Picard is not allowed to go down to the planet to talk to them. There's like a whole thing, but right there they invent warp, so like, anyways, they say, hey, this is where we would make first contact with your race, but we're not going to do it if you guys don't want us to, right? Like if your planet's not ready to know about us, then we're gonna peace out, right? But hey, by the way, Commander Riker got caught while he was surveying your world. Like the whole thing, I don't know if you know that episode. It's a brilliant episode where Commander Riker is pretending to be one of the alien races and that whole thing, but it's all based around the prime directive. So since that world building has that rule, the prime directive, that Starfleet goes, look, this is our number one rule. We don't advance civilizations before they're ready to, and whatever. that means the characters are kind of dancing around this morality, and it becomes an interesting story. But it requires that moral framing. The Starfleet says it's immoral to advance a society too fast because they made the mistake and they did it, and it messed things up, right? Anyways, that thing is what you do in your game building. If you don't have a moral framework built in your mind first, it's gonna be hard to do it. And I guess that's why I see it being really important, and why I kind of want to figure out how to structure this in an easy way. But what I'm getting from TSL Frontman's comment here is that one of the easy steps that Dungeon Master can do to do that, you can tell me if I'm misunderstanding, but it's to create good characters that do bad things because it's easy sometimes, and bad characters that do good things on occasion, just to make them a little more human, you know, like maybe they accidentally do a good thing on occasion, but to allow the player characters to interact with lovable NPCs and dangerous villains. Am I understanding that, TSL Frontman? I'm gonna write down that last idea. See, allow players I'm gonna say to fall in love with, NPCs who are threatened by villains, or who become threatened by villains. I know that's not exactly what you wrote down, obviously, but that's what your comment, gave me. So it's like, it's something about the framing of the world building to help you kind of structure that thing in, and then your players are going to see that, like, here's one. So in our campaign, we have this thug in the town named Quasimund. He's one of the Mallard people. And right away, I established that he was going around the town and bilking people for their goods. Like, he was going to the baker shop and going, "Where's my morning bread?" And he's got like a little gang of thugs with him. And one of my players saw it. So then the other people in the party eventually learn he's doing this, and they're like, "Fine, we're gonna go bully him." Like my friend in Thailand, it's like his mission every week during our one-to-one time. He's just bullying Quasimund, like beating up his gang. And if his gang gangs up on him and beats up my player, then my player goes to their houses and like tells them like, "Hey, I'll catch you alone. Like, I'm never gonna stop." Anyway, so that moral dilemma, by making a bad character and then good characters that are being picked on by the bad characters, like, my players really responded to Quasimund being a bully. Like, they're trying to reform him right now. Quasimund is like this low-level NPC, but my players latched onto him so quickly because he was such a divisive and antagonizing little pest, but he wasn't really threatening. Like, they almost killed him in one hit in a fight. But, anyway, so he's now like one of a central focus characters, and they're trying to like redeem him by teaching him how to play music and be an artist. It's interesting. It just naturally kind of happened. Elder Goblin Games, I see you just jumped in. How's it going, man? How have you been? I have not in recent days had a chance to catch up on your progress with your house and whatnot, but I have thought about you repeatedly, and if you're up for it at some point soon, I'd love to have another discussion with you. Let me know. All right, hang on. Let me catch back up because I'm missing a bunch of stuff. Let's see. I'm missing out on the lower decks, though it is a comedy not asking those tough questions. Okay, yeah, that's fair. When you say missing out on the lower decks, are you saying it's a good show or it's a good Star Trek show? Yeah, and I guess that would be the difference for me. Let's see. We'll consider this, Nate. You can be set on a path of heroism, and it appears to be righteous, but this is only surface. It ignores the inspirations of those who set the heroes on their path. Okay, let's see. Perhaps they are being manipulated. Ooh, bummer. And that goes into that morally gray area as well. I'm going to assume that in a lot of campaign situations there is a manipulator, right? There's like a wormwood in there, and the wormwood is, am I saying his name right? Wormwood? Wormtongue. There's a Wormtongue in there, and that Wormtongue is doing Wormtongue stuff. Right, and there's the potential for that worm tongue character to be the character who's, yeah, I can probably think of, I can't at the moment, but I can probably think of stories I've seen that I love where heroic characters find out that they've been on an evil quest and they just, oh no. I'm not sure if those are the stories that resonate with me the most. I'm not sure what to do with that, but let's see. Tolowit says I was replying to the YouTube video on morality. It's super long, so I need to find another way to share it. Left an explanation in Discord. Okay, thank you, Tolowit. I appreciate that. Chattel slavery is only evil if life has intrinsic value all on its own. Ooh, I argue that it does. Chattel slavery is only evil if life has intrinsic value. That is okay, so Tolowit, that is a really good way to tie that back into the idea of morality. That's exactly right. If my players encounter, okay, here, for example, my players encountered a dragon, right, in their last session, and the dragon immediately looked to all the goblins in the fight and said, slaves, let's start fixing up my lair, right? My players didn't bat an eye, right? Like, they're like, whatever. This dragon has now decided to take these goblins as slaves. The goblins seem to be keen on it, and we're gonna let it happen, right? The goblins want to be working for this dragon, and the dragon wants to have goblin slaves. You know, I didn't mince words. Dragon called them slaves. You know, but like for whatever reason, like that did not irk my players at all. But the moment, you know, I have like some other kind of situation where it's like there's a human or an elf or something, and they have a collar around their neck and they're being dragged through a field by orcs, my players are going to kill that orc party like instantly. So I mean, again, life is valuable except for goblin life. Let's see. Serfs couldn't legally leave the fiefdom. They had to hide for a year and a day. At least in some legal frameworks. Okay, that's more information than I knew about serfs. So, Andrew, you have convinced me that there is a separation between slavery and theft. Probably why there's two different words. But I say that the outcomes have a similar loss of property and have the potential to enslave a person, although I would not, and I'm trying to be careful with my words, I would not try to equate the two as the same again. Thank you. But I would say that there is a similar outcome. If that is the edge that I come to and I don't cross any further, that's well done. It is intrinsically evil for one person to own another. Oh, is it intrinsically evil for one person to own another? Okay. Let's see. Tolowit, I would love to join the Discord if allowed. Yes. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Let me go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to open up the Discord. I'm going to find my Discord. I'm going to get a link. Nope, wrong way. It's up here. Invite. I go down here to make it a edit one, not later. See, it's gonna make it a permanent one. Never expire, no limit, maximum number of uses. Okay, create a new link. All right, copy. I think this is gonna work. All right, I'm gonna go back to YouTube. Let's make a new tab. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, this is just gonna be open, so I expect it's gonna turn into the Wild West again very soon, but I kind of like that. So, all right, let me go to YouTube Studio. Right, and it's in the About section. No, I'm not in the right area. Hang on. Content and analytics, subtitles. Oh, it's in a different thing. It's in your channel. There we go. This is gonna start playing the video. Okay, good. It's just okay. Never mind. It's not gonna play the video. All right, go to About, Manage Videos, something Community. Am I not signed in as me? Manage Videos, there we go. Customize channel. And I'm gonna add the link in there. Down here, handle, description, channel URL, add a link. I'm gonna call this Discord. Control V. All right, publish. All right, there should be a link if you go to the About section now. Let me close that. All right, let me go back to this. Okay, so TSL Frontman, have you responded to my thing? Okay, sorry. But if you haven't been certain of someone's evil, or if you haven't been certain if someone's evil or not the whole way, then a final gray revelation at the climax can really establish why it was so confusing and uncertain and give the PCs control. Hold on. Oh, there. Okay, there's more to that. Hang on. All right. Good bad guys, bad good guys. Yes, those are helpful, but it's dependent on the tone of your story, whether or not a morally complicated NPC adds depth. If it's just a twist, then it's probably bad. Okay, interesting. I see. So, hold on. But it's dependent on the tone of your story, whether or not a morally complicated NPC. Okay, that's a good point, right? Like, okay, there's a certain way that I can start subverting expectations. Like, I could do it in our current campaign. My players just toppled the orc queen, right? And I could go like, oh, but she was actually a good guy all along. You just destroyed her empire, and she was all about saving orphans. Like, that's a subversion, because I already established that she's got like phalange as barrettes in her hair and that type of thing. So okay, yeah, right. And if I do that, that twist doesn't add anything. But if I build it in, okay, so let me see. Let me add in another idea onto this one. This is also game world idea. I'm still keeping this different from real world idea. Game world idea. Stop misspelling things. Game world morality. I'm gonna say this is like a 40 chess move thing. You have to, oh wow, you know what? This is like AJ Henning's idea. You have to know how this thing is gonna end. I didn't think it would actually get there, but TSL Frontman, I think you inadvertently, you may have just argued for AJ Henning's idea that he mentioned a few weeks ago, and that is plan out the beginning and plan out the end, but let the middle section be on its own. And what I mean by that is like, okay, if we look at like Star Wars, the new dumb Star Wars Force Awakens, and Star Wars the Last Jedi, and Star Wars The Return of Skywalker, Revenge of Skywalker, I don't know what it's called. It's not Revenge of the Sith. That's the old one. The Last Skywalker. Whatever it is. Okay. All right. That story, they didn't know the end and the beginning at the same time. And so that's a really bad story. Like, nothing is good about The Last Jedi, and nothing is good about the Last Skywalker movie. They might be interesting on their own as movies. And I could understand someone saying, like, I like them as Star Wars movies, but they're not good as a trilogy. And that is objectively true. Like, that's not my opinion. I know it's going to sound like it's my opinion. It's not my opinion. It's objectively true that Snoke dying in the middle of the series meant that they had to resurrect the Emperor. And that's stupid for stupid's sake. And, the fact that, like, they just didn't know what they were doing, right? It's obvious they didn't roadmap this out. And I think if they had roadmapped it out, okay, so what it sounds like you're saying here, TSL Frontman, and I could be misunderstanding, but that is that you need to have a piece of the beginning and a piece of the end, and you need to know what the last scene is, right? A little bit. Now, you can't plan out what Luke Skywalker throws the lightsaber down, but secretly you have to know in your mind that Darth Vader can be turned to good, right? And so you have this story where it's like, there's the evil necromancer, and he has his Black Knight, all right? And the heroes are going to come into the castle at some point, right? Assuming they survive through the whole castle. And there's going to be this confrontation where the Black Knight is fighting them, and the necromancer's not even trying. And the Black Knight is, winning until it's losing. And then the players go, but you know what? We detected good in them the whole way. Because, like, there was a few moments where the Black Knight could have killed us, but didn't, or something, right? And if you know that going in, you structure that thing out. And you have that moment where the Black Knight was fighting them in the Cloud City, but he's just not even trying. He's like one-handing his weapon, and the players are going, is he trying? Is this guy a good guy? Is this guy secretly good, right? But if you know that story based out, then you don't end up with Emperor Snoke being cut in half. Okay, all right. So, all right. The idea is know the beginning of your story. Okay, no. Know the beginning of your campaign and know the end of your campaign. That's okay. And that's why I like the Dragonbane campaign so much because it's got like a clear, here's where this story ends. This story ends when they go see Azelhoth, the demon summoner lord, or even perhaps his boss, Sothmog or something, the demon. So, all right, I'm gonna write this idea down, and then I see that people are saying thing in the chat, and I'm gonna respond. Okay, so hang on. Know the beginning of your campaign, but also spelled so much of that wrong. But also know the ending. This is a complicated one. So that you can not plant seeds, not plant leads, so that you can give. It's so that you can give something, right? Maybe you guys are able to help me finish writing this idea out. So that you can give something, so that you can give clues. Okay, maybe that. Like, so that you can give clues, so that you. Okay, hold on. So that you can give clues. All right. TSL Frontman, I have to say, I love your comments and your feedback. Sometimes you help me to structure these things out in a really good way. Whether or not this is what you intended for me to get from your comment, I don't know, but thank you. So I hope I'm reading into what you're saying the right way. Like, I don't want to just be interacting with your comments and then finding my own adjacent ideas. At times I feel like I'm actually getting what you're saying, and if I'm not, you could just correct me and be like, no, that is not what I'm saying. Like, shame on you. Like, I would respond to that. Let's see, hang on, let me go back up. We got some. All right, content surprise. Let's see, we go. Okay. Oh no, I'm late. Okay. How long has the stream been on? I'm headed home from work. Oh, hey, content surprise. How's it going? Yeah. Let's see. I started at 5:30. No, I started with a countdown of 5:30, and then you didn't miss that much from 5:30. And then I did a whole bunch with my son Riker. My son Riker was watching the video that I made with him. I kind of wanted to remind him, but I also wanted to say thank you to the whole community who's been helping me. Like, I mean that. Whether we end up on the same idea of an opinion of a tabletop RPG thing or a different side, I appreciate everyone's pushback. Like, people I agree with, people I disagree with. I appreciate you guys helping me do this, because this is for me like a mission to try and play a game with my son, right? And if you followed the channel for a while, like, like one of the very first videos I put up on here is like, I can't play a game with my son. And so I have been like, I just, I'm not going to try and get like super emotional or something, because like, I don't think it serves the point I'm trying to make, but I am really appreciative of the fact that he and I are making progress in gaming. And it's because, you guys have helped me to understand the benefits of storytelling in tabletop games and doing it well. Like, because when I first started doing tabletop games, I was really bad at it. I was a really bad dungeon master until I started trying to learn how to be better. And you guys have really helped me to learn how to do this like well. Like, I am a lot better at it today than I was 6 months ago. And I give a lot of the credit to the people who have given me direction through this channel. So thank you. Let me skim through, and then I'm gonna get to Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas actually had 2 comments. Let me see if I can find. There we go. Yeah, 2 comments. I'm gonna go to both of his, and then I'm gonna jump back to Anto's. All right. Let me see. TSL Frontman has been here. Okay, but if you haven't been certain if so, okay, that was the one. Okay, you haven't been certain if someone's evil. Right. Let me scan if you've corrected me on that. Okay, see, really my point, it was that you shouldn't know if the ending will be morally gray. Hold on, let's see. Really my point, it was more that you should know if the ending will be morally gray or not. Oh, that's really good. And make sure you build up to that. The end could be anything, but gray ending requires build up. Okay, so and that's where And that's where I'm distinguishing between the morality of the game, not storytelling, right? So like I'm not trying to make a video right now where I tell people the process by which they do story building in a game. That probably will be a different video, and that's actually okay. That's a good idea for a different video. This is just the morality. I'm sure the morality will inform the storytelling, but right, I'm not telling them like you have to have a last battle on the castle. You know, obviously that can happen anywhere, but you do need to understand that Darth Vader is a character that could be turned to good, right? And like you lead up to that. Like that scene in Bespin is the prime example. That is not Darth Vader trying to kill Luke Skywalker. That is a fight where Darth Vader is barely trying, right? All right, let's see. I'm gonna say I had two thoughts for new videos. I'm gonna write them both down on this same thing. One was help me make a video. These are help me make a video. I'm gonna try and come up with an acronym for that. That's HMALV. HMALV. Okay, and one of them was how to prevent your party from splitting. So you don't bother telling me here. I'm gonna look at the video comments later, right? But how? Because it was. I think it was the crux of what went wrong in our game the other night. My party split. So I had 2 players doing this thing that wasn't contributing, and 4 players doing this thing, which was a really like just a crazy combat. And so that like it made things disparate really quick. How to prevent party splitting. And second idea was how to craft a TTRPG story. Okay. I'm gonna get to Andrew's comment and then I'll try and catch up. Okay. Andrew first says my knee-jerk reaction is no, but this is before he had actually listened to the video. So he's saying no, you can't run a tabletop RPG without morals. I think I agree, but let's see what the rest of what he said was. It's down here. Okay, so he says, I believe the issue can be resolved by looking at it this way. First, C.S. Lewis pointed out how everyone on Earth, no matter what race or culture, did agree on certain emphatically universal truths about basic human nature, which constitutes good and evil. Okay, so he's saying everyone on Earth agrees that there are good things and bad things, right? There is good and evil, right? We agree that there are certain universal truths about human nature, and we declare behaviors like we agree slavery is evil, right? So like we all agree slavery is evil, and no one is under any compunction to be like, yeah, slavery's fine, slavery's evil. So we all agree on that, okay? As such, that baseline must come from something from someone or something which transcended them all. Can't be a person who came up with it. Can't be one of us or something in our mind. And I think that is highlighted well in C.S. Lewis's work, because it would be easy and it would serve a purpose to enslave someone. You know, I mean, it's evil, but it would serve a purpose. Like C.S. Lewis points out some things with morality that help highlight that there is morality outside of ourselves. And again, I think Mere Christianity is a really good book to look at that, to kind of get a sense of his arguments. See, as such, the baseline, okay, got that. Okay, transcended them all. Okay, got that. Second, building off the first, you must then recognize the transcendent in everything you do, if that thing will have any lasting impact on your life, to whatever degree that may be. I think that is a really good point. And that point, he seems to be highlighting. The artistic nature of morality, and how artistic works that are governed by real world moral structures stand the test of time. Like we look at those things. Okay, there are stories that are written today that lack moral framework, and we just lose interest in those like almost immediately. They disappear into obscurity because it doesn't have a moral framework. And then there are stories that are ancient that we're still talking about because there's a moral framework that's grounded. The transcendent exists in them. So look to historical artwork and sculptures, okay? That which points the human soul to the transcendent without exception stands the test of time and memory. Thus, I circle back on my knee-jerk answer and remain in agreement with it. All right, well done, Andrew. That is an excellent articulation of the almost the mechanical reason that you would want to have your tabletop RPG exist in a transcendent moral framework, and that is so that that thing lasts. That thing means something, right? Because if you make all your campaigns morally gray with forgettable anti-hero dynamics, it's probably not going to stand the test of memory. You know, like I right now, I'm trying to go, can I remember a good morally gray character that made me question moral compunction? And I'm like, okay, Riddick stands to, like I already mentioned Riddick. Riddick's a pretty stupid character, and I don't like him. And, you know, I did when I was young, and I don't know, I hated morality. I don't know. So at the moment, like, I think of all the Game of Thrones characters. What's the guy who loses his sword fighting hand? Maybe there was some interesting storytelling with that guy, the Lannister. I can't remember his name. The Lannister guy who loses his hand. There was probably some interesting moral stories with him, but even he was a character. I mean, I'm talking about the TV show. Even he was a character whose entire arc was undone because he goes back home to his sister. Just the stupidest story writing. All right, Andrew, it's a great thought. So I'm going to write down an idea from Andrew's. All right, these are all still game things. I don't really have a lot to, you know what, actually I'm gonna put this aside. I'm gonna go real world morality. And then when I'm done, and then I'm gonna come back here and try and catch up with what you guys are saying. I'm sure you guys are giving me some back and forth, and I'm gonna take some time. I'm not gonna say that's gonna be all I look at from this, but I know I'm taking a long time going through this because I really am trying to understand this and understand the structure of it, because it is a question I have myself. Like, I don't have the answer to this question. In my mind, is it viable to play a morally gray campaign? Can you play an evil campaign without it going off the rails and having players stealth killing each other? I don't know. Like, on the surface, I don't think so. I've never tried, so I can't really speak to it anecdotally. I can only speak to it conceptually. In my mind, that is a campaign that will almost always turn to one player grabbing the treasure and leaving the other 4 players behind for the temple door to seal on, right? Like, I mean, why wouldn't they? You know, okay. And I have seen that play out sometimes in my game where there wasn't a strong moral structure, where characters just did what was pleasing to them in their own eyes, and they didn't think about what would be good for the team. So, all right, real world morals. I'm gonna say, wow, that's a little bit deep, but I'm gonna try and bring it down a little bit. The game morals must. I don't even know how to frame that in a way that is conceptually coherent. All right. Use transcendent morality to inform. Use transcendent morality to inform system morality. Setting morality. And I'm going to put quotes around setting so that I know that I'm talking about TTRPG. Setting morality. The transcendent will last. and I'm gonna add a modifier or a parentheses, will last in memory. Because I know we're not talking about building the Mona Lisa or something. I know we're not talking about like an artwork that is, you know, you can touch it, you can taste it, whatever. But maybe this thing is something that can last in memory, and maybe this thing is something that can actually inform someone's life decisions. Because we have already established that in order to be a better player of tabletop games, you need to aim at bringing food to the table. You need to aim at being a better person. So I think it seems like everyone agrees that these tabletop role-playing games can help you be a better person, right? Like, especially if you're aimed at being a better player. If you're aimed at being a selfish player, you will probably be a selfish person, right? Or if you're aimed at being a selfish person, you'll be a selfish player. Okay, so there is a duality to how you come at this thing. This is not just picking up the controller and playing. This is a social thing. So I hear doors downstairs. Everything okay? Is he asleep? Okay, I'm gonna be quiet for a second. Hang on, let's see. The transcendent will last. Man, I already forgot that. The transcendent will last in memory. There we go. In memory, at least. Okay. Aim for the transcendent. Okay, I'm gonna stick these together. Okay, that's real world. I still have room on this one for more of that real world one, and this one is game world. Okay, all right. Let me see what you guys are. Let me see what you guys are saying. I'm gonna switch my. Okay, I'm gonna scroll back up a bit. All right. I see I'm way behind on reading this. I'm gonna try and skim through and hit things that I see are either directly aimed at me. Oh yeah, Nightwolf says, "May I join the Discord?" You may join the Discord. Let me know it's. Let me know that it's open to you. All right, let's see. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Hell is full of good meanings, but heaven is full of good works. Sometimes immorality, one never knows.
Daddy,
Yes, Riker.
what?
Yeah, yes, we're gonna lay down. Good job, buddy. Hold on, let me get his music turned on. Come on, turn on. Okay. All right, let's see. Good intentions. Okay, our intrepid host. Okay, so I don't know if that's a looking tolerate. Okay, we got Discord one. Okay, welcome back. Let's see. Oh no, my PC much better. Tolerate. See, I argue that true morality requires a moral lawgiver who is omniscient. I argue that true morality requires. Okay, so Tolowit, let me hear your thoughts on this. Can you play in a TTRPG fantasy space without an omniscient god? Like, can you? So, okay. So I'm gonna keep going with the comments because some of the no, I'm gonna keep going with the chat first and then go back to the comments. Some of the comments here indicated to me that that people are aimed at playing in very fantasy settings, right? And I think it's right here. I think Anto Manifesto's comment is going to be very helpful because what they describe here is a situation that is to some degree silly, but it's looking at the morality in a fantasy skewed fashion, and it's a bonkers thing that they point out here, but it's the point I was trying to highlight in the video, that I understand that fantasy could be different from real world. So, I mean, if you're arguing that true morality requires a moral lawgiver who is omniscient, and that would be like a one god, I understand your argument there, but that means that you could play in a game world that was polytheistic, but you couldn't actually have the gods be real, right? It'd actually have to be like one god, but just people didn't know him. You know, like there's lots of little gods like Thor and Zeus or something, but they didn't really, like they were just people who were worshipped, right, or whatever. So anyways, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about that. Like, can you play in a world where there are gods, if that's the case? Because if you can't have a real moral, you know what I mean? I'm running in circles, but I hope you know what I mean. All right, other mouse. Let's see. Okay, that is where you have to have different deities willingly and knowingly exploit its mortals for worship and gifts. So, and that's like, I'm fine with the idea of playing in a polytheistic or dual theistic or monotheistic world. I'm not sure if that kind of like game structuring is essential. Like in the game we're playing right now in Dragonbane, I haven't even touched on whether or not there's real gods or, you know, like small g gods or big G gods. It's not really focused on that type of thing. It's more like this little town of outskirts and trying to save it from stuff. So, but generally when I approach the idea of gods and cults and things in my world, I make a distinction between the cult worship and whether or not there's a real god. Like, it's very likely there's a cult who worships, you know, Azun, but Azun isn't really a god. It's like they carved a tree and said there's Azun, right? Like, just because someone believes there's a god in the world doesn't mean there's really a god in the world. You know, that's generally how I lean into it. All right, let's see. Condensed Prize was there. Prime Directive. Okay. Is it moral to not interfere when you have the power and means to do good against evil? No, that's why Star Trek Next Generation was such a good show. Most characters are morally gray unless you have cartoon paladin morality. That's fair. Yeah, right. Superman is kind of that character, and Batman is the one we consider to be morally gray. I understand what you mean, Satori. Let's see. We got to see. Let's see. Satori, a cleric should not be, though yes, they should be paragons of the tenets of their deities, good or evil. Right, and that would say essentially that the player character is a character who understands where they are in the world and understands where they want to be. Like, they have a life path or something. So that's going back to what TSL Frontman said a little bit, that some of it you have to be structured out in your setting. Like, you have to have some idea. So for example, let's say we have the cleric route, right? Here we have a cleric, and the cleric wants to be a good cleric for their deity, right? They want to be healing and spreading hope and prosperity through the land through health, okay? That means that you as the DM need to understand a little bit about their clerical order. How does that person progress in the system? If the only way that they progress in the system is by leveling up and then gaining a new ability, then okay, sure, whatever. But let's say they want to be a cleric, and in order to be a cleric, the head of the temple says you're going to have to go on this dangerous pilgrimage to rid the world of something like the plague or whatever, and you could catch the plague. Now you have a way for the player to be informed about how to be a good cleric in the world. Right, so that's kind of that thing where it's like you gotta know the end of a thing a little bit. I don't know. I might be trying to connect too many dots together, but I think the system and setting might need to inform the players. Like, the system and setting might be really helpful. And to be honest, I haven't really seen a lot of systems and settings where the morality is baked into the system. I have not seen many. I have seen one or two, but not many. So. You know, I don't know, make that of what you will. Let's see, there's a fine line between a gift and a bribe. An NPC gives the whole party horses. What do they owe that NPC? That's a good point. Hey, Elder, I agree. Hello, Elder, Goblin Games. Let's see, Satori says, depends on the agreement and willing to stick to said agreement with the NPC. Right, there is a point where the party has gotten free cakes from the baker for several weeks or whatever, and then they find out that the baker is like beating his wife or something, you know, and so the party's like, but he's giving us free cakes. The free cakes will stop if we stop him from beating his wife. Like, I think those situations are interesting to play into, especially if you have players who want something from a character and for them to step into that, right? So that again is TSL frontman, what he said. You got to know the end a little bit, right? Like, where is this character? What is really going on with this character, so that I'm not just making it up as I go and then tricking the players with it. So, content surprise. No, I have not already covered your comment yet. I've been going really slow. I've gone through 3.5 comments so far. I'm about to go to Anto Manifestos. All right, let me see. Applies, Satori, let's see, depends on the agreement. Yeah, okay, got that. Don't think so. Set it up as a gift. Okay, I'm gonna keep going down. All right, theft and slavery. I would say both have negative outcomes for the victims and both cause harm. That's sure. I agree. Let's say Nate did. No, let's see. Let's say yes, Nate did without double checking the comments. Is okay. Gotcha. Let's see. I don't know how old the teenager in your group are, but I would say in your current group, I would say in your current group, I would say consistent positive morality is the right thing to do. I agree, and I think that's some of the premise for why I'm making the video, right? Because I noticed that there was an argument between people in my Discord, and like there's very experienced players, like there's GMs who've been playing like 20 to 40 years, and they're having disagreements with other GMs who've been playing 20 to 40 years about how to run morality in the game. Sometimes they're arguing about whether or not you run a villain to be a mustache twirling, like, you know, evil for the sake of evil. And sometimes they're arguing about like whether or not something should be morally gray. And so, like, seeing all this back and forth, I was going, I wonder if this question is answered in a way that's clear for someone who's new to starting out. And like, since my channel is kind of focused on trying to help families to play with their kids and like get their kids involved in the hobby and like play with their teenagers or maybe like youth groups or something, there's the thought like, okay, well you'd want to do it the right way with regards to morality. And if morality, okay, the question was, can you play a tabletop role-playing game without morality? And I so far from the comments, I'm getting the idea that no, you need to have some kind of morality baked into the system, but what that morality is might be difficult to structure. Anyways, so yes, I agree that the teenagers definitely benefit from it, but I would even say that the adults benefit from it. Like my friend Marshall over in Thailand, he loves coming up against a moral quandary. Like I think that's why the game is interesting to him, is when he comes up to a situation. Like, for example, there was in one of our previous games, there was a point where there was a corrupt leader of this wizard order that gave one of my players a powerful magic staff. And my player Marshall was like, you got to give that back, right? You can't have that powerful magic staff because he's corrupt, he's evil, right? Like, that's a bribe. And so there was this fight and, you know, in party fight and stuff, whatever. It was a very interesting situation, but I think that's one of my favorite, like my friend Marshall's favorite things to do. And to be honest, it's one of my favorite things to put into the game. All right, let's see. Clerics can have conflict, Clerics can have any conflict a warlock can. All right, that's fair. Yeah, no, you're right. Clerics can have like a crisis of faith or something. I guess cleric and warlock I see as a different thing. A warlock is someone who's made like a pact with a evil spirit, and a cleric is someone who's made a pact with a good spirit. But I know there are inverse of those two things. But let's say for the sake of argument, you just allow me to have this. Clerics are good and warlocks are evil. Okay? You can have the reverse dichotomy and have evil clerics and good warlocks, I guess. But then I have to say, okay, what is a warlock? Now we have to break down what the class is. I'm not sure that sort of nitpicking is helpful. So let's say it's that way. They each can have the same crisis, right? Like a warlock can have a crisis of faith in their demon eldership and go, I don't want to use evil for good. That is an interesting story to play out. Like, right? It's interesting to play out a character who used to be a warlock and now they're something else, right? Like maybe they stopped being a warlock because they don't want to channel demons or something. Same thing with a cleric, or they have like that paladin who like turns on his oath or something. I think those are interesting stories to play for the purposes of exploring morals. All right, let's see. Tolit. I would say that slavery is evil. theft has a gradient between justified or not. I can't like 100% disagree with you, but at the same time, like as a premise, I'm trying to think of how I push back on that. Theft has a gradient. Okay, theft does have a gradient. I agree with that. But it also is a slippery slope. And so it's hard for me to argue in the positive of theft. Does that make sense? Like, theft is one of those things where it's like, first, it's your neighbor's Amazon box arrived on your porch, and you didn't ask for it, and you didn't try to take it, but then it's like, oh, I actually want this stuff, right? Or Amazon credits you for something that you didn't send back. You forgot to send it back, like a computer glitch thing. And it's just more work to actually go through the steps to make sure they have their money. Like anyways, it's that slippery slope thing that's like, it's really hard for me to argue the benefit of theft. So I'm just not going to, but I understand the point you're making. See, yes, determining the beginning and the end while having a few paths in between is called yarn method. I didn't know there's a name for it. Okay, I think Sly Flourish writes about that. It is an easy foundation for story, but that wasn't really my point. Okay, your point was more that you should know if the ending will be morally gray or not. That's okay. Hey, thank you. Let me see. No, the beginning. Okay. Second note. No. If, and I'm going to put quotes around if the story will be morally gray from the start. Okay, that one is now filled. This is okay, so that one still got some room. Thank you for clarifying, TSL Frontman. Hold on. There's something else. Okay, no, again, that wasn't the point. And getting morally gray or not, and make sure you build up to that. The end could be anything, but a gray ending requires buildup. The end could be anything, but a gray. Okay. Thank you for adding that last note. I'm glad I noticed that. Hang on, where did it go? It's over here. Here we go. Gray ending requires buildup. Hope I can fit this. Gray and requires buildup. Okay. That's the last one. Okay, that's okay. All right. Going back down. Let's see. In fantasy game, you can identify evil. It's from Tolo. Let's see. Oh, hang on. I skipped something. No, you're here. In fantasy game, you can identify evil and clearly define it, okay? In a fantasy game, you can identify evil and clearly define it. Okay, I understand that. But yet there are deities who are evil and require evil deeds to do to please them, okay? Is the evil then wrong in the game? Yeah, no, that's a... okay. Right, and that's where C.S. Lewis turns the idea of dualism, or one good god and one evil god, and they are equal powers. He turns that on his head with just a clear argument that you can't, that evil is actually a distortion of good. Like, good exists on its own. Evil is a twist of something good. Good exists for good's sake. Evil does not exist for evil's sake. So you're right. Yeah. So having an evil god is kind of a strange idea. In that, right, in the game world, is it good to serve an evil god? Because the evil god is a god, right? Like, and so you serve them. So are you evil if you're... I get you. It turns my head in circles. All right, let's see. Andrew, what makes slavery evil? I think it is. I'm drawing out the info. Okay, I understand what you're doing. This is a good question. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you for clarifying, Tolowit. Okay, when in the game, evil is as valid as good things gets tricky, right? When in the game, Evil is as valid as good things gets tricky. I understand what you mean. If you are arguing, right, so that's kind of almost like talking about that necessity of evil thing. Like if you're playing one of those games where it's like, look, we're playing Walking Dead, we got to shoot the fat guy so we can all survive. Hey, we're all going to shoot Bob so Bob gets eaten by zombies so we can make it out of here. Right, but the necessary evil thing, I mean, like I have a sense that those kind of actions in game can do a lot to your players' conceptualizations of their characters. Even if they don't understand that it's happening, those are players who are now playing with characters who they might see as compromised, right? I mean, like, you remember that? Does anyone remember that scene in The Walking Dead with Shane? Like, it's a really awesome scene. They're trying to go to the school to get some stuff, and like, you know, we already know at the beginning of the story. It's one of those episodes where you get to see the ending at the beginning, and then it plays it out backwards through like flashbacks or something. And Shane is there shaving his head, and he's kind of losing his mind. That's a compromised character, right? Like he's wildly compromised, and it is hard to fall in love with him again, regardless of what he does, regardless of how well he does it. He's a compromised character, and it's just difficult to connect with him. If your players are making those choices in the game, you as the dungeon master are probably making a mistake by putting them in situations where they make those choices. I think that's the assessment I'm making. I know that might, you know, but that's kind of where I'm sitting at. Well, I'm gonna keep going and hear what you guys are saying. Okay. Midwest Malachi says, does morality come from the universe or from deities? It depends a lot on the origins of the universe. Right, and that's something that I guess when we're talking in a fantasy setting, it is something that is either alluded to or it is not alluded to, and it might be better served to not have it be alluded to, right? Because then you get into that area where it's like, okay, do we have a pantheon of gods? Is this god the chief god? How chief is he over this one? Like, does the god of biscuits, you know about the god of bakery? Are they friends? Are they enemies? Like, when you get into that pantheon of gods, you start getting into like this real, just kind of obnoxious, which god's most powerful, whose deity do you worship? And at some point it becomes utter nonsense. And that's why I'm like, okay, when you look at like Dungeons and Dragons and they got all these different gods, they're just throwing in Norse gods in there on top of it. Like at some point it's like, does any of this make any sense at all? Is there any way to make sense of D&D's pantheon of gods? I don't think there is. But which means then your world is completely incoherent and nonsensical because you've tried to make a pantheon make sense. And a pantheon doesn't make sense in reality. It's fine to have an entire culture worshiping a pantheon of gods. But we know that Zeus and Hera aren't real. Like no one thinks Zeus and Hera are real gods, right? I mean, like if someone were saying that Zeus and Hera were real gods, like we would look at them like someone who believes in horoscopes or something, or like flat earth. Okay, I'm a little close to that because I believe that about my moon landing theories. I'm a conspiracy theorist. All right, I'm gonna get to Anto Manifestos in just a second. I'm really gonna try and scroll. All right, evil and good. Man, I'm just not good at this. Let's see, Evil Nations, Greyhawk, Midwest Malachi, okay, Tolo talk. Okay, Andrew, personhood is a great word for it. So the question is, why is taking away personhood evil? Good question, Toloit. Nightwolf, see, okay. I would say, all right, Andrew says, I would say it's because you're taking away inherent personhood, okay? I'm not a philosopher, so I don't have good words for it. No, that's a good word for it. Why is taking away personhood evil? All right, Toluit, I can see you're pressing the issue. Thank you, Toluit, this is fun. AJ Hennings agrees that party splits are awful. All right, so all right, then I will definitely be making a video about how to not let a party split happen. I'm not doing that right now, but you can comment on that thing. Let's see. I hate the Socratic method. Oh no, I'm sorry. I like the Socratic method. Okay, I read that wrong. Yes, I like the Socratic method as well. That confused me for a second. Wolf Knight says, I mean players mood dependent would rather break down the door, kill the baddies, take the treasure, and rescue the kidnapped. Right? Beer and pretzels, TTRPG. At least in many groups I have been in. Okay, I agree. There's an interesting aspect of that gameplay that I also really like the simplicity of. but there is opportunity to ask hard moral questions. And Krem from my YouTube channel did a really good job of illustrating the reason why you play these games. Like, and it's in my mind, like the front and center reason that I like to play TTRPGs is to connect with my family, right? Connect with my family and friends. And the second reason is to ask them hard questions. I love doing it. I love thinking of a weird situation to put them in, to make them go, what's the right thing to do? Like, what's the moral thing to do? What's the good to do in this situation? I love doing it. I love when my son leans into something kind when it's painful, like when it hurts him. Okay, in this last campaign, man, there's this moment, right? And we didn't really like cover it essentially, or we didn't cover it like in our video, but there's this moment where there's a child on like a sacrifice table. Yeah, I go hard. I go totally hard. My demons in the world, they like children. I know it's cheap to some degree, but they leave the parents in the farmhouse to burn to death, and the demons want the children, right? So my players rescue the parents out of the farmhouse. They find out there's a ritual. They're going in there. They're trying to distract the orcs who are making a pact with demons and all this stuff. But at the same time, I'm describing from the thing that's happening, the child's body is going limp in the cage. The purple smoke is coming up. My son is like fuming. He's like, I'm going to get that kid, right? He has Landon launch his character with the levitate spell 60 feet, and he goes flying through the shaman. And he does this maneuver where he's opening up his spear into the orc chieftain's head. And then afterwards, he's using his berserker rage ability to just go enemy, enemy, enemy. And he's missing attacks, but then it's their turn, right? And it's just like arrows firing at him. He's trying to block them. And he says, and it's like at this point, I'm ready to like, there's like, my eyes are going to get misty because he's like, I'm going to lie my body down on top of the kids. And that was just one of the things where I was like, that's the moment, right? That is the moment that you make for these players, because right after that, he dies, right? He goes to 0 hit points, and another arrow hits him, and he takes damage. And I'm just like, that is the moment. You get your players to lay down their lives for strangers, you know? I mean, okay, in the future, I'll probably have to set up some things where it's not innocent kids, but still, that's the fact that they're trying to do it with Quasimund and like turn him from the dark side. That's also like, that's so fun to lean into. So, man, I really said I wasn't going to get so distracted, and I'm getting so distracted, but okay, hang on. That moment, I'm not kidding. That moment did exactly what it did to me right now, just describing it. Because my son, like, I'm trying to like explain to him, there was another thing that happened, right? There's an artist who's up inside of this cage along with the kid's sibling. The artist is their uncle. And he was also captured from this house. And the moment my son did that thing and arrows are hitting him in his back, the artist, a picture was burned in his mind. And now he's going to start representing that image in the world, right? And as well, there was a moment where this sibling, whose sister was just saved, they're going, that's my hero. So this moment created ripples in the world that my players are going to get to find out about as time goes on, right? Like when they start seeing the artist manifest that moment recaptured in his imagination with leatherworking and various other types of murals that he makes, when they go across some ruins where a graffiti has been painted of the knight with arrows in his back, oh my goodness, like that's, right? That's the thing you, all right, okay, sorry. I just want to scroll down and see where the very bottom of this is, because I know I'm so way behind. Okay, Chevron's here now. Hey, how's it going, Chevron? Okay, so, am I going to try and go backwards? All right, let's see. I wouldn't argue with that. Chevron, okay, so Chevron and TSL Frontman are agreeing about something. Let me go back up a little bit. So one of the things I was going to mention about my goal for the channel, all right, is you guys can see I'm obviously having a hard time keeping up with the comments and rambling and going through these things, but I love doing these streams. I really enjoy doing these streams. I like going through and trying to read your comments and figure these things out, But one of the things I would probably going forward is look for is someone to help me manage some of the commentary here and go through and highlight stuff. And at the same time, like if we start having more conversations with people who are building systems, that's also gonna be something I'm gonna look for, is not necessarily like Discord moderators, but yeah, that too, but also like someone who can do some administrative work on the YouTube side if it's enjoyable for you, right? Like I don't want to give someone a job, but if it's enjoyable to go through comments and highlight things that are relevant to the thing I'm currently talking about, that's helpful, because I'm obviously getting lost in the amount of comments that there are on here, and trying to run them all is just I'm not able to cover all the bases. But I'm gonna scroll through here. Peter Stero's agreeing to my terms. Let's see. Midos Malachi. Let's see. All right. So TSL Frontman says, so apparently there's an argument here. Sure, Tolwood, but that's like the argument God made the universe 14 billion years ago. It's fine if you believe that, but it's not scientifically repeatable. Anyways, I didn't want to debate theology. Okay. Oh, okay. Because so TSL Frontman, I understand that Tolwood, as far as I understand, Tolwood is a Christian and you are not. And even from the point that I first started this channel, I did say that my Christian beliefs were going to inform my opinions at times, but I'm not here to judge other people and their ideas about things. You know, I'm going to decide what's right for me, and I might make statements about belief. It's going to happen, right? So, and I understand that Tolwood is doing that right now. So let's see. TSL Frontman says, I don't think morality requires a singular omnipotent source for a variety of reasons. The world had ethics and morals long before the Abrahamic monotheistic monotheisms in religions, Druidic cultures and such. Okay, all right. Without religious motivations, most native cultures like Native Americans have morality attached to the world around them. It's very Western-centric thinking to assume one deity influenced Buddhism. I mean, so far as I know, Confucius was informed by Christianity, but I understand. We're not arguing theology here, so that's fine. That depends on your view of God. If one believes that God is the creator, then he pre-existed those moral codes. Okay. I understand the argument going between the two of you, and I think that's the thing we're kind of coming to in tabletop RPGs. So, all right, let me restructure the conversation between all of you for just a moment. And okay, how do you run a polytheistic world where there are really gods like let's go with Greek, okay? Because I know a few Greek gods. There's really Dionysus and Hera and whatever the dwarf god of smithing. Okay, let's assume all of those gods are real in the world, and in the world they're real. Where does the morality come from, right? Because one of the Greek gods is telling you to sacrifice your child here, and one of the Greek gods is telling you, like, you know, here's the fire to give. You know what I mean? Like, who is Zeus? Is Zeus in charge of the morals? If Zeus is in charge of the morals, then why are all these other gods working against Zeus? So that means they're evil gods? Why isn't Zeus smiting them? Like, I mean, like, I could get crazy with the way that it is convoluted and nonsense, because we can see it's nonsense, right? So, like, how do you run a polytheistic world that is not incoherent? And I mean, I'm looking for it, right? If you can come up with a way, a simple, like, you know, 2 sentences or 3 sentences that explains, and I'm almost even looking for the exact way to do it, right? Like the step by step. Step 1, step 2, step 3. How do you do it and not have it be incoherent nonsense, right? Because at some point it turns into incoherent nonsense where you go like, well, why? Well, but why is that thing? And if the morality is in the system and the gods are not part of the morality, why aren't the gods fighting against the morality, right? Like, if you have a god of the Thieves Guild, right? Like, okay, let's go with the Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls has who's the weird god that you the Assassin's Guild, the Morag Tong. who's the god of the Morag Tong? That's what I'm talking about. Like, that god of the Morag Tong is someone that you could go worship and give your homage to, and you could work for in the world. Who's to say that murdering people is bad? Like, murdering people is good if you work for the Morag Tong, right? Does anyone remember the name of that god? I can't remember in Elder Scrolls, but I'm gonna skip down to the end of some of this, and like, if you can bring forward the way to run morality in a polytheistic world, not culture. Like, the culture believes in them, sure, but it's not just a culture that believes in, it's not just Greeks, right? It's actual, those gods exist. How do you have morality in Dungeons and Dragons with their stupid god system? How do you make it make sense? Because I couldn't figure it out. I could not figure it out. What I did was I wiped the whole world. I said, all those gods are fake. There is one God. It's the God of light. Okay, it's just the God of light and love or something. You know, I wasn't like trying to make it a Christian thing. I wasn't like, you know, Jesus came and died on the cross for these elves or something. Like, I just went, there's a God of light, okay? And he's the real God, and there's a bunch of other people who believe in other gods. But I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. Let's see. Night Mother, thank you. Morag Tong. All right, the Night Mother. Mephala for Morag Tong. But there was a god for the Thieves Guild too, right? So Night Mother was for the Assassins Guild. And who is the one for the Thieves Guild? He's like in the wall somewhere. I'm mixing both of the guilds up in my mind, but all right, let's see. AJ Henning says, if the gods logically track, you serve the ones you serve the ones that serve you. Okay, so it's like it's a trade agreement, right? Petty gods are spatial and not all powerful. Engaging with them requires direct effort, not passive thoughts. All right, TSL Frontman says, polytheistic flaws. Elder Scrolls and Middle Earth do a similar thing. There's one main god. Does Elder Scrolls have one main god? I didn't track that with Elder Scrolls, but I didn't really pay that much attention to the lore that much. Let's see. Elder Scrolls and Middle Earth do a similar thing. There's one main god who had prismatic aspects in the forks of a dozen or so demigods, and those 12 made aspects of reality. Okay, so there's main god, and then it branches off into different aspects like virtues or something. Okay, so I could understand doing a pantheon that way. That's a good way to structure a pantheon. There's one real god. You know what? C.S. Lewis actually does that in his work, the Ransom trilogy. I don't know if you ever read it, but the Ransom trilogy is, oh my goodness, it's Paralandra and that hideous strength in Paralandra, and there's a first book I can't remember the name of, and it's about like leave the Silent Planet, out of the Silent Planet. So out of the Silent Planet, Paralandra and that hideous strength. And in that world, he structures it kind of Christian, right? It's kind of a Christian world. I would say it's a very Christian world, but he also has like these small gods. They're like angels. They actually have a name for them. Eladiel and Owashu or something. Anyways, they're like these kind of creative beings that exist in the world. Okay, he does a good job. TSL Frontman, well structured. TSL Frontman, I have a question for you, and this is a direct question, but you don't have to answer it. Have you blocked AJ Henning's responses? And then my follow-up is, would you mind not like unblocking him? Because you guys have some back and forth that is very interesting, but I also get the sense that maybe you aren't able to read what he says anymore. And if I could push back gently, that, you know, I don't want to tell you that's not good for you or something. That sounds lofty. But I don't know. I have appreciated in the past. This is a Discord thing. I really appreciate hearing people's arguments back and forth. Like when you and Tolowit are kind of, you know, butting heads about belief and stuff. Those things help me to structure out my ideas. And so if you wouldn't mind unblocking AJ so that I can see you guys, you know, it's you don't have to, but just if you have, I don't know, maybe it's up to you. You think it. I'm going to try and get back to the comments in a minute, but I want to get to Anto Manifesto. because it's 8:16 and I know my deadline is 9 o'clock because I promised my wife that we would watch something tonight, and so I'm not going to be going until midnight. So let me get in here. Okay. So Anto Manifesto brought up, if you guys have already spent time reading what he says, you'll just have to bear with me as I read it. He says a really interesting thing here about a fantasy morality. And so I asked a question, and I actually haven't had a chance to read his answer to my question, but all right, so he says, this came up in my Wildsea game recently. It's a pretty brutal world where everyone's just trying to survive, but it can also be quite goofy. For example, one of my players has the goofy idea of playing as a sort of humanoid raccoon creature like Rocket Raccoon, but person-sized. Very different personality. And one of the core mechanics of the game is the idea of hunting. But what happens when the thing they're hunting isn't that far removed from one of your players, or from what one of your players actually is? That's a really good question. How do you play in a game with big, silly animal people, like cat people? How do you play in Dragonbane with mallard people, and you're like, we're gonna go duck hunting, right? Like that's okay. This is like your ancestor, which is really funny because my son's uncle is playing. Oh, this is so cool. My son's uncle is playing a wolfkin in the world, right? This is cool. He has a wolf as a pet, because he's like a hunter, and so he picked the animal companion heroic ability, so he's got a wolf pet. And his mission for the game is to give his pet sentience, like a soul, essentially, right? Like consciousness. So he's traveling into the Misty Vale because he's seeking out the magic necessary to give his wolf the ability to evolve. Wow, that's cool, right? That's an interesting moral question just in and of itself. Like, do animals have a spirit? Do animals have a soul? What makes an animal different than a wolfkin? Yeah, anyways, okay. So when you get into the fantasy setting, there's all these weird questions, and it's like there's like how do you play into that, right? All right. Okay. So Anto Manifesto continues. I've tried to keep things surprising from a morality sense, and then let my players muddle through making decisions about how they feel as they go. For example, and this was a weird example. This is super weird, but again, Wildsea's kind of it's a strange game. It's zany, okay? For example, I have a young NPC that is joining a sports team that models itself after a cult. So one of my players is concerned about the vibes of this cult/team, especially as in this sport is called, especially as in this sport called Sticklash. There's a chance of dismemberment. Okay, so there's a rough, like, gladiatorial game, a sport in the game that is modeling itself after a cult, which is interesting on its own. But in the sport, like the gladiatorial sport, you can become dismembered, okay? Except that this NPC is one of the cactus. They're called ectus. So he's an ectus person, and their entire species relies on dismemberment to survive. In the case of survive here, I think what he's saying is to procreate, because that's what he explains in a moment. In fact, this NPC was born when their father cut off his own arm, which he then planted until it grew into his daughter. So basically, for procreation, the ectus, because they're cactus people, need to chop a piece of their body off and put it in the ground and plant it. So an NPC wants to go join a gladiatorial game, and the gladiatorial game can result in reproduction. I guess there's a potential for you to let the game get weird in that moment, where the gladiatorial game is essentially an act of reproduction. That's, what do you do with that? Okay, leaving that aside, is it evil to dismember that ectus person because it actually helps them to reproduce? Okay, fair enough. Interesting question, right? Honestly, it's quite fun getting my players to second guess what they think they know about morality of this world. It keeps things spicy. So I asked a follow-up question because I was like, whoa, this just, this has the potential to blow up a lot of different things. So, okay, so I tried to ask questions to focus in and narrow down so that I'm not just going You know, okay, so it's legal every time you see an Ectus to just chop a part of their arm off and be like, "You're welcome," you know, Mazel Tov, you know, because you, right? I mean, I just procreated with that Ectus. Hey, you owe me procreation rights. Since I cut that arm off, you owe me child support. I'm like, this is, I could get crazy with that idea if I allowed that type of morality in my world. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have trouble running WildSea, right? Because when that type of stuff starts going in, you know what? That's what it is. Oh my goodness, that is exactly, okay, all right, that is, my own ramble gave me an idea. These zany worlds are difficult for me to run because I don't know how to structure morality. And for me, asking my players difficult questions is the second most important thing I'm doing. Asking my players hard moral questions is the most important thing okay. The number one thing I'm doing playing a tabletop RPG, I've already said, is playing with my friends and family. I'm going to put that aside, and you guys just assume that's inherently true just based on whatever, okay? The number one thing I'm trying to do then in reality is ask my friends and family hard moral questions. In a zany game, I have so much trouble doing it. The moment the game turns into an Ectus person who's a cactus gets its arm cut off, it becomes an offspring. Dismemberment is actually not a immoral thing for an Ectus person. I'm like, I don't know what to do in that world. I don't know how to build a story in that world because everything is nonsense. Right? Like it's not only, it should be, you know, so everyone should be chopping up all the Ectus. Okay, when I was running WildSea, the thing I had worked out in my mind was there was a pirate organization that were collecting the Ectus because of a water shortage, and they were going to be using them to as like a slave, like as chattel in the world to siphon fresh water, right? And so like all the Ectus were being collected, and there was going to be Ectus farms. I know, dark, right? Really dark. But that's where I was going with it because I go moral, right? I go hard moral. The Ectus people are missing. They're turning them into water. You guys have been drinking the water, right? All the fresh water you're getting from these places comes from Ectus. How do you feel about it? You know, I mean, like, it's a bit dark, but that's where I was going with it. This, I have no idea what to do with this, but he's right. That's exactly what you do when you play WildSea. When you play WildSea, you're talking about spider colony people. How do you run morality, hard moral questions in a spider colony thing? And that's where I think when I started running the game, I was like, I don't know how to ask hard moral questions in this game because everything is so crazy. Like killing a person doesn't matter because they turn into an anchored person, right? Once you kill a person, like, all right, hey, you've joined the ranks of the anchored. You're now a new class of person. Like your death means nothing. Like, so how do you know, like, I don't know how to run that game because I don't know how to ask hard moral questions in it. And the idea I have is you can't ask hard moral questions in a world. What's the question I'm going to continue on with his comment. You tell me what the question is. I just said, what's the thing I just said? I have it, but I lost it. Like something about running a zany, incongruent world. You can't ask moral questions in it because, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so I'm going to finish. Okay, so I said, okay, these are great examples. I think they are great examples. This is exactly what I meant with morality getting strange in a fantasy setting. I'm glad you understood. I have a few questions based on the way you have established Ectus reproduction. Would it be illegal for someone to dismember an Ectus? Would dismemberment be a crime similar to a sexual assault? Is it legal to dismember a human in this world? Are there different morals for different races? I have a few more questions, but let's start with those. And I mean, like, I have a few more questions, like probably, I don't know, 20, and my questions will probably spawn questions. All right, so let's see what he says. I haven't read this, so maybe in some cultures it would be frowned upon. I'm guessing this is about dismembering people. But in the hunting society they're currently in, dismemberment for Ectus Gau, and Ketra is pretty much just a fact of life. Not an issue for Ironbound or Celicrae. Okay, right. When you get into this world, I did think it was very interesting that you had these different races. I thought that was an interesting thing to do in a tabletop RPG. It was cool because it let you know what kind of character you were playing. In actuality, the difficulty I had was it was very hard to figure out how to structure that character in the world in a moral sense, because with the anchored being a thing, you have a Zealocray who dies, the Zealocray becomes an anchored. But you could also have a Zealocray who was anchored, and so then that Zealocray who is anchored could die and become an anchored. You know what I mean? Like, it's the anchored was one of the things that just, like, I didn't know what to do with that, because no one ever really dies because they just become anchored. And so then you have anchored, and then anchored, and then it's, you know what I mean? Like, okay, all right. So with some of these races, he says that's just, yeah, it's just gonna happen. I don't know why he's not saying it's gonna happen with humans though. So like, I don't understand. So I guess the Ectus, the Gao, and the Ketra all reproduce by dismembering themselves. Dark or weird or something, okay? Not an issue for the Ironbound or Zealocray. I'm not sure if that's exactly what is being said, because it seems like he's trying to avoid speaking to the fact that he has established that dismemberment leads to reproduction for those races. The Gao are a fungus colony, so that would make sense. The Ectus are cactus people, so that would make sense. And the Ketra are like squid people, like worm squid people, so maybe that would make sense. Okay, so I'm assuming that's their form of reproduction. But he's not saying that's how they reproduce yet. Okay, frowned upon for humans, unless they're into body modification. But they don't reproduce that way, so shouldn't it be immoral? Like, shouldn't it be... Okay, I have 10 new questions. I'm not going to. Okay, out in the... I can't. Out in the wilds, where they are right now, there's not really such a thing as a crime. Okay, out in the wilds, where they are right now, there's not really such a thing as a crime. You just don't want to antagonize the wrong person. Okay, so there's no law and no order out in the wilds. I mean, how do you structure a society that way? You know what I mean? Let's take society out of the way. Let's say you have, in Wild Sea, they have this thing where there's like a little town that pops up. I think they're called spits. So you have a spit that pops up, and 100 people come to establish a town or colony there. How do you keep them from eating each other? You know, like, why do they trade bread for schooling with you know what I mean? Like, if you can't establish what a crime is, how you ever, okay. That's what I'm saying. Like, these zany systems, do you guys understand what I'm saying? I'm gonna go to the comments as soon as I'm finished with this one, because like I don't know. All right, okay, I'm gonna finish the comment. You just don't want to antagonize the wrong person. Okay, I've got a city setting in the works though, where there will definitely be laws and crime, as well as semi-corporate legal system, okay? And maybe even a revolution if the players decide they want to help overthrow the current regime, okay? All right, so my problem with all of this is I don't know how to work morals into this. None of this is like morality. This is... Okay, one moral question that comes up is it immoral for a Ketsi? No, Ketsi. What are the cat people? A Tabaxi? Is it immoral for a Tabaxi to kill a cat? You know, I mean, like, that's a cat is not a baby Tabaxi, right? A Tabaxi is some sort of abomination between humans and cats. Am I understanding that right, or am I missing some fundamental fiction inherent in Dungeons and Dragons? When you start looking at those races and those mixed races, there it's just all right. But a rocket raccoon hunting an animal, I understand. There's a moral quandary there. This next thing goes into such zany nonsense that I'm like, we're not talking about morals anymore, but this is. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? Because like we're not even talking about morals anymore. Cutting off the arm of a Ectus person that they get to reproduce, but that's actually how they reproduce. Like, that's not even a moral question. I don't know what kind of question that is. That's a question of a world and setting thing that now you have to build a entirely incoherent mess of laws and adjudication systems. It is legal for you to on a 10th day of the moon month of October to sever every arm of every, whatever, cactar person so that they can reproduce. And in fact, it's part of a celebration. You have to get so stupid with your world building in order to make a moral system in it. Okay, my sense is it's impossible to run a moral game in a world that is incoherent. I'm now going to move to the chat because I'm sure I have upset some people. Let's see what you guys are saying to me. I'm not going to start with the bottom. I'm going to try and scroll back up and see what we've been talking about. Let's see. Polytheistic. Yeah, okay. I like when you structured that out with the polytheism. All right, let's see. Tolo, it says, I've been tempted to set a campaign in Tariel, okay? Or Tamriel. Yeah, I don't know enough about Tamriel lore enough to do that, but I do get a sense that people who have gone deep into Tamriel really love the lore and the world building. Let's see. Night Mother sacrificed her kids to Silithus. There we go. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, thank you. That reflected the principles of the main god Iluvatar. Okay. To Sithis. Sithis or Silthis? Sithis. Okay, I remember what you're talking about, though. I played enough Oblivion. I played the most of Oblivion, a lot of Morrowind, and... No, I played a lot of Skyrim, too, but I broke Skyrim as a game. It wasn't fun when I learned the crafting and enchanting system. I made it so, dragons couldn't kill me on the hardest setting, and it wasn't fun. And I wasn't even, modding. All right, let's see. Pragmatism, was that the word I was trying? Okay, so whatever it was, that was the word I was trying to find, maybe. All right, the Content Surprise says polytheistic deities are not sports teams. They're a pantheon that inform one another. Culture norms are traditions set by ancient societies. You don't need a deity to have morals. That is okay. All right. If a pantheon of gods is just a society in and of itself, and then we are like their ants, and then ants are like ants to us, right? Okay, so it's but then there's something that informs them, right? Who says it's wrong to bring fire to the mortals, right? And why is it wrong to bring fire to the mortals, right? You have to have an understanding of why that thing. If Dionysus decides to poison all the ants, is it bad? Well, Hera seems to think so, and so does... I don't know, Zukrion or something. They don't like what each other is doing, but what informs their dislike? If you say the pantheon, you've just kicked the can down the road. That's nonsense. Polytheistic deities, you can't have them just run their own thing. They actually have to be informed by morality. Otherwise, now we're just deciding who informs them. There's a god above them. If they don't decide the morality for the humans, then the morality for the humans exists outside of them. So no, we're saying that we're establishing that the gods have decided what right and wrong is, okay? And so the gods have decided the right thing to do is to pluck out the left eye of your third-born child every third-born child, right? And so all the humans do it, and they all pluck out the eyes, okay? And so they have this thing, and that's the morality that the gods have baked in, okay? But if you have two gods that disagree with each other, and one says, no, you don't pluck out the right eye, you pluck out the left and right eye. Every third child should be blind. What's wrong with you, okay? So now you have gods in disagreement. Well, who's right? Okay, because in pantheons, you do have disagreement. Every single pantheon is disagreement. They fight, they kill each other, they live, they die. Every single pantheon throughout all of history, none of the gods agree. And this comes from humans building stupid pantheons because humans don't know how to create gods in their framework of their mind, right? There's the god of trees and the god of flowers anyways. So if the pantheon is not the one informing morality, then that means morality exists outside of the pantheon because the pantheon disagrees about morality. And when we're saying the word morality, what we mean is the thing that decides right and wrong. We're not talking about opinions because we have a word for that. The word for that is opinions. You know what I mean? Anyway, so if we just kick the can down the road and say that the pantheon is not a sports team and in fact they are gods, why are they fighting then? Why don't they agree? If they all agree on the same, so then morality exists outside them. So that means that they are a society above a society, but they're not, you know what I mean? They're not gods because there is a god above them. They're just more powerful than people, right? They're just They're just creatures more powerful than people who can do stuff we can't do, like sorcerers or magicians or something. But in reality, they're not gods, because whoever made the morality that they're bickering about is really the gods. Like, you understand what I mean? Like, I could keep going on, but I don't think we're probably not going to agree on this. But you have just, Content Surprise, you've just kicked the can down the road with morality, and now you've declared that someone else has to make the morality because these gods don't agree ever. Yes, the frontman says Elder Scrolls has super mega nerd nonsense lore. It does go as deep as you want. I've seen that kind of lore in the I've seen that kind of lore in Warhammer a bit. I was never really a lore guy until Mass Effect and the game Control. Like Control, I got deep into the lore of that game. I loved finding the secret documents and learning all the different conspiracies. I was a little bit of an X-File fan. My sister was a big X-Files fan, so that probably informs that interest of mine. AJ Henning says, Tola was right, by the way. Check his comment about... check his comment about mine, about Elder Scrolls. Let me see where Tola said something. Been tempted to do the thing. Okay, pragmatism. Let me go back up a little bit. Oh, okay, for the Morag Tong. Okay, Night Mother. Okay, so apparently Night Mother was Thieves Guild, I'm guessing, and then the Morag Tong. Oh, let's see, where is it? If I think something is true and then I am wrong, that is a good thing. Now I have an answer and I move on with a new thesis. If I think something is true and then I am wrong, there, right. That's exactly right. C.S. Lewis describes that, and he says when you're doing your sums, he's talking about math. When you're doing your sums, the wise person is the person who, when they realize they've gotten their sums wrong, goes back and restarts. They don't just keep trying to do wrong sums with wrong sums. Like they go, oh, I got something wrong here. Let me start over again. The foolish person goes, maybe my sums are wrong. Let me keep trying, right? So, well done, Kilowit. All right, let's see. Family Tabletop, I do modded for... Oh, I do modding for several YouTube channels and Discord channels. If you need help, I can help with whatever. Tolowit, remind me... Okay, Tolowit, message me in Discord because I have forgotten which person you are on Discord versus which person you are on YouTube. So if you have a different name on Discord and YouTube, message me. And we'll have a video conference, like, I don't know, tomorrow or something. Tomorrow morning I'm hanging out with Riker, trying to play games and do stuff, whatever. But like, I don't know, tomorrow afternoon or evening or something, we'll have a talk. All right, let's see. Let's see. I read that one. I'm gonna keep going down. I got Content Surprise. Okay, just jumped again. Let's see. Chevron, how you doing, buddy? Germanic barbarians worshipped gods based on what worked. One year they burned some crop and the harvest was awesome, so they kept trying. After three generations, it became, we've always done this. Interesting. Andrew Thomas says, you can't flip good and evil on their heads for the sake of a game. It may seem fun, but it goes against the truth of which is ingrained in our DNA and ends up like ash in our mouths. Andrew, I think that's totally right. And I think that's one of the reasons why my brain was rejecting Wildsea as I was trying to understand it. Like, there was a part of me that goes, I don't know how to structure this world. I don't know how to make anything matter in this world. Like, okay, we're playing Dragonbane, and there's a couple things that are in the system that are, like, I don't want to say they're incoherent or they're nonsensical, but I just ignore them. Like, I ignore the parts where, like, demons are kind of, they're bad. The demons are bad. If there's a chance for my players to side with demons, I'm going to make that never possible. Like, I'm going to make it so it's so obvious that demons are evil. Like, demons are never going to come with, like, sneaky, peaceful, like, no, but we're rescuing the children for you. Like, no demons are ever going to rescue children. Demons are going to eat children, okay? And so that's why I'll lean into that. Wildsea, I had no idea how to cognitively suspend my own disbelief in order to make that game run, because I already mentioned it. The anchored, the just all the different sides. I don't know how to run. I don't know how to make anything make sense in a world where when you die, you just become a new class of character. So it's not evil to kill. It's not evil to kill people in WildSea. That's where I went, like, I don't know what to do with that, right? Okay, at that point, you're playing a tabletop RPG for the sake of playing a tabletop RPG. You're not playing a tabletop RPG for the sake of asking your players hard questions. And asking my players hard questions is the number 1 reason I play a tabletop RPG. So I guess if you're someone who wants to play a tabletop RPG and all you want to do is play the game to play the game, like basically to say, hey, we're playing it, we're not asking any hard questions, we're leaving politics and real world morality and all that stuff out, we're just rolling some dice and having fun. Cool, that's a beer and pretzels game. I can totally understand that. I like playing board games that way, so I get that. That's not how I like to play tabletop RPGs. When I play Mouse Ritter. Mouse Ritter's gonna be like, dude, do we, it's gonna be trolley situations, or like, we gotta bring these goods back for our families. Like, it's gonna be, hard questions, hard moral questions about how we go take down Roger the cat, All right, let me keep going. Say, content surprise. All right, so now there's an argument. Looks like there's an argument between content surprise and Toloit here. So Toloit, because we as humans understand that others are also human. All right, because Toloit asks, okay, then why be moral if morality interferes with one's desires? AJ Haynes, see, I nerd out on Elder Scrolls. I'm super into ESO these days. Disagreement is always good for me. I like that, Toloit. I like that stance. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I opened up the Discord again. Is because those disagreements are really good for me to, like, this is good for me to figure out. Like, I would not have come to the conclusion that the reason I can't run WildSea, and I'm not really that interested in WildSea, like, I'm not trying to talk trash on the guy who made the game. I'm not trying to talk trash on their game. For me, the reason why I play TTRPGs is to ask hard questions. If I'm recommending a family to play TTRPGs, I'm going to lean into the idea, this is the way you ask your kid hard questions. I firmly believe that you should be doing that with your kids, and this is the way to do it, right? You can't do it with Monopoly necessarily. It's not the thing, right? But you can ask your kids hard questions about bullying, about, like kindness, right? Like, do you be kind to someone who's been mean to you? Like, when do you forgive someone? Like, you can ask your kids all sorts of questions through these stories, and I think it's impossible to do in an incoherent world, in an incoherent setting, and I find the world of WildSea to be incoherent. I hate to have that stance on something, because I know that the company sent me a book, and I want to be able to recommend it to people. It's like, but at the same time, I don't want to become beholden if a company sends me a product that I don't agree with. Like, I want to be honest about my thoughts and opinions. So I get it. There's going to be companies that go like, look, we don't want to send you a product, and so that's totally fair, because I'm not going to agree with all the different games, and I think games that are like very incoherent in their world building and it's hard, if it becomes impossible for me to ask hard questions in the game, I'm just not interested, right? I'm not interested in playing the game like at all. Maybe I'll play like a player. I'll be a play. You guys let me know what you think. I know that the ideas are mixed. Do you like playing? This is a different question than you think. Do you like playing in games that you don't like to DM? Do you like DMing in games that you don't like to play? You know what I mean? Like, do you generally like to play and DM in the same thing? Like, if you like to DM a game, you also like to play it. Are there any games that you enjoy playing but not DMing? Are there any games you enjoy DMing but not playing? This might be a question I ask in a YouTube video. I don't know if there's a point to my asking it. I guess I don't think it's a YouTube video. It's just for the sake of my answering the question. Despite the fact that I have not gotten through very many comments here, I think I've only gone through like 5. I've actually already learned a lot, and I'm going to write down an idea here, and this is going to be real world morals. It extends to the system. Real world morals. Interesting. The way that this has informed me is to let me know, wow, I didn't mean to make this hard and fast line. This kind of came naturally through examining this thing and trying to ask the questions. And I find it to be essential to have it be possible for you to put morals in your tabletop RPGs. I think it's fundamentally necessary. I think it's fundamentally necessary. I think it's part of the reason why I encourage people to, I would not encourage people to play TTRPGs if it weren't for the fact that you could ask people hard questions. Like, it's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's sort of fun, you know, but like, I don't really remember like the games I play where we're just meandering through a tavern and, you know, murder hoboing. Like, it happens. It's fun. We passed by. I remember that moment where my son laid his body down on a kid's body and he took 5 arrows. You know, like, that's gonna be there. And I think he's gonna remember it when you know, when that becomes etched in the world and stuff. So I think the idea I'm getting is you have to choose a setting and / a system where the morals can be put in. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to think about that. I didn't think I would actually come out with this conclusion from it. Like, I didn't go into, I hope that's clear as I'm like talking with you guys and like discussing this. Like, I did have the thought like, hey, maybe it's good to play the morally gray characters, like Riddick characters. Maybe that's fun or something. But I think it's difficult to ask hard questions in incoherent systems, and it's difficult to structure those questions with any type of framing of reality. You're going to get the Snoke situation. Like, okay, are there any more questions of morality that are asked in The Last Jedi? Like, does that movie ask a single moral question? And if it does ask a single moral question, what is the moral question? Because I can't think of a single one. I cannot think of a single question that is asked of a movie that uses children slaves in a world with droids. That's a stupid premise. That is so dumb. Why would any high society use child slaves in a world with droids? Like, I mean, that is so bonkers stupid. It's like it's just putting in the weird moral quandary for the sake of the weird moral quandary. It's like, you guys have robots. What are you using slaves for? What are you, stupid? Like, oh my goodness. It's like it's just being evil for the sake of being evil. Oh, look, mustache twirling. We have children slaves. That's dumb world building, right? Like, that's, okay. All right. You have to choose a system / setting where morals can be put in. Well, you know what? The thing is, this actually, wow, this turns the video I make into a totally different video. This is actually like a buyer's beware video, and I did not mean to be going into it like that. Okay. You have to choose a system setting where the morals can be, I'm going to say baked in, but that's not what I mean, into the story. I'm going to follow that up with morals cannot be added to an incoherent system and setting. Hey, Lex? Would you mind making me one of those, whatever you made last night that I can't remember, one of the peppermint things or whatever? Yes. Morals cannot be added to an incoherent system / setting. I'm just going to give myself an example. Okay. All right. Let me scroll down. Total it. You could say you can only be moral by suppressing your desires. I don't think I disagree with that on its face. Although I could see some. let's see. You could be, okay, you can only be more by expressing your desires. I guess I would put a caveat to that you could actually make your desires align with morals. But I think the premise you have is good, because there are a lot of things that we desire that we should not give into, right? Like we shouldn't give in to the desire to, I don't know, hurt ourselves or do things that we know are going to be bad for ourselves in the future. Like there's obviously, the marshmallow experiment, right? Like, don't eat that marshmallow now so you can have 2 in 5 minutes, right? Like you get what I'm saying, I think. Content surprise. If you don't care about other humans except, if you don't care about other humans except for how one can benefit me, is that bad? I think it's a good question. Okay, he says, I blocked AJ. Though I'll gladly unblock him. I had reasons at the time, and I'm willing to walk it back. Give me a second to figure out how. Thank you so much, TSL Frontman. I appreciate that, and thank you. I appreciate that. Tolowit, okay, see, why would you want to suppress, why would I want to suppress my desires? No, you're doing Socratic well. I like asking those same kind of questions. I'm sure you can tell that that's kind of what I try to do. My uncle does that a lot to me. My uncle is a big proponent of the Socratic method. If I ever come to my uncle with like what do I do with this or this thing? Like I'm generally going to get like 4 or 5 questions into my situation before I get a single answer. And I appreciate that. He does a good job with it. I keep going down. Andrew says, if it doesn't end up as ash in your mouth, I'd be concerned about you. And I'm reminded of what Paul wrote in Romans 1. That's a good point, Andrew. Thank you for the reference. I'm going to have to go back into Romans 1 to remind myself what Paul said. I always confuse the first and second chapters of Romans 1 with the first and second chapters of Corinthians 1, like 1 and 2, or 1. Peter Pistero, okay, so if God is in the mix, then it makes sense why I would. Okay, Peter says, you would suppress your desires to do the moral thing in the eyes of God, so to speak. It's a good point. Let's see. TSL Frontman's Midwest Malachi says to TSL Frontman, I need to apologize when I came off strong earlier. I thought you made that typo to indicate that Tolowit was slurring his words. I now think you didn't mean anything by it. Okay, Malachi, thank you for de-escalating. I appreciate that, buddy. Polytheistic model won't work in. Okay, the polytheistic model won't work in any game any more than it works in reality. Okay. Now, what about the version that they're describing with Elder Scrolls? There's like one. Okay, or here. Pardon me for picking my nose. What about the version that C.S. Lewis builds in the Ransom series? Because it didn't offend me at all. Like I read through the Ransom series, and when they have the Oyasa and the Eldile, which are kind of like they're kind of like angels and archangels, but like they're creative beings that have control over stuff and they do things, right? And they manifest creation in a certain way. They could be argued that they're kind of gods. They would at least be perceived as gods by the character of Ransom. But even in that, the woman from Paralandra is also like Ransom examines her and looks at her and like she's kind of a version of woman he's never seen before. She's a perfect woman who is sinless and thereby is kind of like he's at least in allegiance to her, right? Like he's like kneeling at her feet, that type of thing, like the Arthurian legends. Anyways, so what do you think of it's I know it's not a polytheism, but it is a god with underlings, like it's a god creation hierarchy. And what if humans in the world only ever see the Oyasa and the Eldile and they know them maybe by names, right? Like what do you think of that type of system? Because in my mind, that worked fine. I loved the Ransom series, probably one of my favorite book series. It was just fantastic. So I would not feel myself like in bad territory using a hierarchic structure under a monotheistic god, using a polytheistic structure underneath it, that are like lesser gods or archangels or angels, but they would all have to be in agreement. They just have different functions or abilities or something. Like they're not warring with each other necessarily. But anyways, keep going. Peter Cicero, sure, but I assume you know about the, hold on. There's Malachi. It's not so much pop culture. Let's see, what was this related to? Tolowich. I see. Peter Bastero, I really enjoy your pop culture knowledge. What was the thing he said? It's up here. Could argue only by expressing your desires we separate ourselves from the animals. That is essentially what the Kiswat Hadirel. Oh, he's in Dune. Okay. Let's see, what is this saying? Suppressing your desires, we separate ourselves from the animals. Oh, interesting. Okay. I've only seen the Dune movie because I'm not I've only only in the last 2 or 3 years have I started reading books again. I was not a book person, so I'm way behind on my book knowledge. All right, let me keep going down. I agreed with Andrew from Tolowit. Okay, let's see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I know I have 3 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna try and be quick. What's that?
Okay.
No. I said we'd watch something, and I don't want to miss out. Okay. So when my son Bishop is gone, sometimes because when he's here, we try and do things together. So we'll watch Jericho is a show that we started watching. It's kind of I don't know if you've ever seen. It's like a campy's early 2000 what if the bombs fell, but it doesn't go zany. It doesn't get fantasy. There's no zombies and stuff. It's what if the bombs fell? How would a small town survive? Anyways, it's a cool. I think it's a pretty good show. So we've been rewatching that. It's got Skeet Ulrich. It's weird for me to reorient Skeet Ulrich as a good guy in my mind because he was always the bad guy from Scream. So, anyways, so we're gonna watch something. I have 2 minutes. I'm gonna try and go through here real quick. Let's see. Hang on. Don't make me defend Star Wars. Hang on. What did I do wrong to Star Wars? Hang on, don't make me defend Star Wars, bro. I beg you. What did I say wrong about Star Wars? Is The Last Jedi a good movie and I'm wrong? I feel like that's the only one I'm making fun of. Or are you talking to someone else? Did I make fun of Star Wars? Hang on, see Nate. Let's see. Darling the Frax is an interesting story you might like. The story asks questions about what makes us people. Darling the Franks. Peter, would you mind sending me a direct message on Discord so I remember to get that? Let's see. Consent Surprise. Why have so many people consistently fallen for it? Let me see what Consent Surprise is talking about. Content Surprise says, okay, Midwest Malachi, I think you think too little of people. A community can come together and agree on norms without being forced into it by religion. Okay? Surprise, I agree, but those norms have no structure or meaning, but convenience and mighty enforcing those rules on others. I don't think it's ever happened, Content Surprise. I don't think we have any examples in history of that occurring, a community coming together and agreeing on norms. What you generally get when you have a community coming together and agreeing on norms is Germany in the 1940s, right? If what is societally acceptable becomes the hegemony of morality, and I put quotes around morality there, then that means the majority of society has determined that good can be evil and evil can be good, and there's no such thing as good and evil. So if we're just saying that whatever a majority of people says is morality, then you have 1940 Germany. And there's no way to argue out of that, unfortunately. If morality is something that the majority of us agree on, let's say you say all the good people know what morality is. All the good Germans knew what morality was in 1942. Okay, they knew what the good morality was. And the same thing with Russia. All the people in the Soviet era from 1917, it's a little later than that, 1920 to 1970, all the good ones knew what morality was, and you knew what you were doing outside of morality. It was moral to lie and cheat and steal and take other people's things. It was moral to covet and envy and turn your neighbor in and take their stuff. Those were moral things to do. So if you leave morality open for the majority of society to determine, then you definitely end up in Germany in the 1940s. There's no way around that, right? Because if you're saying that you're going to defer to whatever the majority of people says, like, well, you're only 1 year away or 2 years away from someone saying the moral thing to do is to eat your dog. The moral thing to do is to, I don't know, eat your baby, right? It's like, well, the majority said so, so I did it, right? That's why they have the book Ordinary Men, right? It was regular people that became concentration camp workers. That's known, So, you'd have a really hard time making a case for that, like making a case for the fact that communities band together, create concentration camps. That's what happens. That's what history has said over and over and over again. When a community bands together without a moral structure, even Solzhenitsyn in the Gulag Archipelago explains a society without religion is a society that has no function, like it has to eat itself. And he even says, I now know the reason for all religion in the world, to keep one man from killing another man. Otherwise, every society breaks down into one man killing another man. I've definitely gone over my time. Hang on, I'm just going to skim through some stuff here. All right, so any of you who are in the Discord right now, if you can do me a favor, I'm gonna jump off almost immediately. But if there's any really, really good comments in here, I really don't want to miss some. If you can just copy them and PM them to me. If it's easy to do, if you're on a computer, whatever, you can copy it and PM them to me. If you think it's going to add to this discussion, because I don't want to miss this stuff, but I also want to get to, I don't know, I think we're watching Arcane season 2. I will be pleasantly surprised if it holds up to okay, before I go start watching Arcane season 2, has anyone seen it? Does it hold up to the first season? Is Arcane season 2 worth watching if I really liked the first season of Arcane? And I did really like I was content with it. I was happy with the animation, the story. I thought they did a good job. Does it hold up? Is it worth going to watch? Let's see. Hitler was a Christian, right? Hitler was not a Christian. Hitler can call himself a Christian, and all that does is mean that when Hitler says the word Christian, it means nothing. Hitler was not a follower of Christ, and people who are Christians are followers of Christ. If I walk around with this, it's a very bad knife, but if I walk around with this box cutter stabbing people and call myself a Christian, that doesn't mean anything, right? I'm just abusing language and making words not mean anything. So saying that saying that Hitler called himself a Christian is not like it's not an own on Christians, it's an own on Hitler, right? All right, but Hitler's kind of an own on himself, right? Let's see. Thanks for the great video. Keep fighting the good fight in faith. Have a good night. Thank you, Andrew Thomas. I appreciate it. I have an inclination towards the divine. You love one another. Love one another. Is that bad for you? Do not repay evil with evil. Repay evil with good. Is that bad? Forgive one another. Boy. God certainly seems to have our worst interest at heart, doesn't he? Okay, Andrew, to be fair, sarcasm is the recourse for the weak mind, but I do appreciate the wisdom. Let's see. Chevron Red, I'm saying that a religious head appeals to the divine to justify their own use of power. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. Going to go wash the dishes. I will listen on my phone. Why would I appeal to the authority of work? I'm not about to argue about religion specifically. I don't want this to become a Christian debate. It's not a Christian debate. It's a moral debate. And unfortunately, I think unfortunately, a good number of people have a difficult time determining where morals come from outside of a Christian framework, or at least outside of a religious framework. And I'll leave that open, but I could probably still argue further, or at least narrow further. So it is very difficult for people to state where morality comes from without kicking the can down the road. Because if you say it's something that we're built into, well, then how do you get evolution? Like, how do you get the idea of the survival of the fittest? Because that morality and survival of the fittest are in direct opposition with each other. So you cannot have us come from evolution and also be moral creatures. because all right. This is unfortunately, this whole topic is a theological discussion, whether you like it or not. Like whether you want it to be a Christian or religious discussion, this argument about morals in tabletop RPGs is a theological one. I'm glad we had this discussion. Thank you for everyone who's been in the chat here tonight. You've helped me to work out some things. I have at least 6. I have at least 6 cards to go into for the next time. I didn't get to combat tonight, but that's fine. I knew this. I had a suspicion this was going to take a long time. I will be starting more discussions on Ticking Time Bob's channel probably this week. So if you want to go follow his channel, if you're interested in Pendragon, you should definitely go check out Ticking Time Bob's channel. If you're not interested in Pendragon, but you want to hear more discussions we're going to have, and also Ticking Time Bob and I are going to start doing larger discussions with AJ Hennings. And also, I think Pendragon community and people trying to play that game system. So let me see if there's anything down here towards the bottom. Dude literally wish to be burned on by the Day of the Dead in Romania to gain eternal life. It's pretty well documented. Hang on. Dude literally wish to be burned on the Day of the Dead, Romania to... Oh, is this... Are we talking about Hitler? Is this Hitler? Okay. Last few episodes hold the relevant points in question. Maybe it's too long a road. It's worth suggesting. Okay. Peter, if that's related to the... Peter, if that is related to the story you told me about... Peter, if you're not doing anything like maybe on Tuesday